gentlemen, we came here to make you move.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Stranger by the Hour, episode 171, March 29th, man. And we're coming back at you with another Raider homie, our homie Josh, man. Josh is he's got a long list of accomplishments, man. Retired Marine Raider, Force Reconnaissance Marine, Marine Scout Sniper instructor. And he's stopping in tonight to help us fucking sort out some of this anti-Semitism shit that we're seeing bubbling up in the information environment. So Josh and I go back to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, where Josh was in the stay platoon, and I was a 3-7 Kilo company assault section leader. So that was the first time I think I met Josh. He probably doesn't remember, but it was like you and Hamblin and somebody else. We were talking about who should get M4s first in the infantry and like March Air Force Base on our way to fucking fly over there, man. And another weird thing is Winterly was recruited into the Marine Corps by my brother out of the Antelope Valley out there in California. And then Aaron knows Josh.
Yeah, we don't go back quite as far, but almost. Josh and I met as instructors at Scout Sniper Basic Course right after OIF 1 wrapped up. And then we both from there went to First Force Recon and then ended up at MARSOC and everything. Dang, dude, like it was Winterly that big ass dude and he got shot in the face.
Yep. Epic story.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I wanted just to like because I saw the samurai sword in the background and just to like start off with something light because the stuff we're going to talk about is a little heavy. I'll tell a Josh story real quick. So Josh is like a lifelong martial artist, right? And like when you're in the Marines, you just meet people all the time. You know, every other person you meet was the state champion fucking wrestler from their high school, and everybody else is some sort of martial artist. You're just surrounded by people that are. So when someone tells you that they're into martial arts, you kind of like, if you're me, you kind of like roll your eyes and you're like sick, you know, like who gives a fuck. But it's like you get to know people that know Josh. So other guys from 3-7 like Owen and stuff, they're like, nah, dude, like the guy, he's a fucking problem. Like Josh is a problem, right? He's not joking. He's really a martial artist. And I'm okay. But so Scout Sniper Basic Course is was located right next door to the what were those guys? Brown Belt Instructors Course or something?
Yeah.
Marine Corps the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program has, various different, schools that get you instructor status to a certain degree. And one of their little courses that they run people through is to get you to be like a brown belt instructor. And like, I kind of shit talk, everyone kind of shit talks the McMap stuff, but it's not totally a joke. Like the Marine Corps martial arts stuff's not like, it's better than it was when we were all boots and we were doing line training. And then, for sure, if you go to the black belt thing at Quantico, that's like a pretty legit, from what I understand, like it's it's not a joke of a program, really. It isn't. But you couldn't get me to do any of it. Like I got people that were in my team to like sign I was always could find somebody that was like, a brown belt instructor. I got all the way up to brown belt and without doing any of the martial arts, basically, like every once in a while, like I would have to go, kick my buddy in the shin or something on the flight deck or whatever when they'd make me. But basically I didn't participate in any of it because that's not my thing. Right. But so anyways, those guys, they would pester, they would want us to go over there and spar with them. And, like, hey, snipers, come over and do. And we're always like, dude, no, we're about shooting people from very far away. Like, dude, if we're slapping people in the head and stuff, it's like we've failed, So they're pestering. And finally, one day, Josh is like, hey, I'm going to be over there. I don't know when I'll be back, but I'm going to be over there with these dudes sparring or whatever, blah, blah. Well, he's there all damn morning. Like he's there. He's gone like the whole morning. You can tell me if I get the story wrong, but the gist of it is basically he's there. He's gone all morning. And he comes back and he's kind of banged up. Like he's a sweaty mess. He's like red and like disheveled or whatever. We're like, damn, dude, what happened? He's like, those guys aren't going to be bothering us anymore. Well, he went over there and sparred them, and he basically like one at a time, or I don't know how maybe you could tell how it all actually mechanically worked, but the end of it was that he beat all their asses, the whole cadre, and then just showed back up at work. So like that was the end of them bothering us. It was I got that basically right.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's I love having other people tell the stories, because I don't know if you're the same as me, but I feel like my mind is like Swiss cheese. There's so many holes of things I can't remember. Yeah. Getting together with guys like you guys, and I completely forgot about 3-7. But getting together with guys like you guys, you start to fill in those pieces, and then immediately I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Well, and it's funny because you never know like what's a significant memory to another person. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Maybe to you that was just like a non-event. Yeah. But it was it was funny to me. So the impetus of this whole thing is people that listen to the show will know that Cody and I a frequent topic of conversation is Zionism. It's mostly Zionism. Like, I think that, if you went back and watch all the stuff we say, we probably do let it fly about Jews, but I like to think it's mostly in the context of, hey, there's this thing, there's just whatever it is, and we'll get into it. Like, there's a political, it's a bunch of things. It's a political movement. It's some sort of metaphysical like status, but whatever it is, it has all this power, and we see it exuding force on all these things that we're interested in. So it comes up a lot. And then because we're kind of dicks, we tend to lean towards, joking about it in a shitty way or whatever. But so
I'll say hyperbole and satire.
Yeah, there you go. Hyperbole. But so Josh happens to be Jewish. So it's like, hey, here's a guy that we know. And I think it just bubbled up because we were in a group chat talking shit a little bit, not in a ugly way or anything, but the topic, because it's a topic that's basically on everybody's mind in relation to what's going on with Iran and foreign policy and all that kind of stuff. And so we thought, hey, look, let's just get on and exchange our viewpoint on it. And Josh you said you're a historian anyway. So we haven't been in much touch in the convening years. So maybe you could give us like your background. Like, let's just start with this. Let's just start with kind of your background and like, what's your status as a Jew, basically, because that's not as cut and dry as like saying, I'm a Christian or something. It's yeah. So break that down a little bit. And then what's your historical context for this is, and then we'll start with that.
Yeah. So, exactly like you said, started seeing if you come and we'll get into this. I don't want to dwell on this right now, but I think that Jews are a little bit of an indicator species, and I started seeing little indications here and there. So, for example, frogs are an indicator species. There's something that's very sensitive to their environment, and when things start happening with frogs, scientists pay attention, and they start looking for things that might be a problem in the future. So, like you said, 20 years Marine Corps. After I got out, I did a little work, interesting work with Combat Hunter. And I was really, the observation stuff we did as scout snipers, but I was really interested in the profiling stuff, which there's a lot we can get into with what we see now. That's not necessarily just looking at people and, the way this guy dresses or the way this guy acts, but there's a lot of things that you can do when you're not around people, right? Just paying attention to what's being said and what's being done. But I ended up, after that contract ended, I finally said, I should use my GI Bill, and I've always had a love for history. So I ended up getting a bachelor's in history. I plan on writing a book. I'm in the early stages of writing a book, very early stages, outline and stuff. I think another important thing that I should talk about is my grandparents are Israeli, or they were. And my grandfather in particular is who gave me my love for history. I have definitely surpassed him in my education on history, but he also was an amateur archaeologist in Israel, and he helping out with dig sites and stuff like that. But he also was a registered tour guide. So in Israel, you can't just, like, I want to start a business and become a tour guide. You actually have to get a license for it. And they quiz you on, and I'm sure, enough propaganda is thrown in there, and that can definitely be in my critique of Israel. I have plenty of my critiques of Israel, but you have to get registered, and they test you on your history and do all these other things, and then you can. So if you ever go to Israel and you grab a tour guide, just understand that they've been actually tested on what they know. And you know, we kind of have a list of things to talk about, but I definitely have my critiques of Israel. And it's one of my things is that I know Israel very, very intimately, been there several times. You know, I'm familiar with culture. My language isn't so good anymore. It used to be better. But when I hear people with a critique of Israel, and then I hear certain things, I'm like, oh, well, that's obviously not true, or that's been debunked, or that's an old argument. And I'm not hearing the things that I intimately know are the true things you could critique Israel on. Then I start to get suspicious. And then you start listening to the language. And that's one of those things where, you know, profiling is you listen to the language, you listen to the words that are being used. And it's the same thing. You could talk about anything, talk about Marxism or communism, and you hear certain buzzwords, right? They repeat certain things. 1984, right? Certain things are being repeated over and over and over again, and they're easy to repeat, and generally people only look an inch deep, so it doesn't require that much background to lie about, because nobody's really looking too deeply into it, and then you just keep saying the same things over and over again. So my ears started perking up. And I think the first thing that, you know, I think I've expressed my background as far as this is concerned enough. I think the first thing that really made my ears perk up is my 13-year-old daughter. I got a phone call. I had to go pick her up at school. And she got in a fight. She was on the better end of it, of course. But talking to the vice principal, there was one story, and then I got my daughter in the car, and she's obviously in trouble. And I said, well, how much of that was true and how much of it was fiction? And she's like, actually, I did it because of this. And this girl was telling her that her life was a mistake. She shouldn't be here because she should have been killed, or her family should have been killed in the Holocaust. So I'm thinking, I imagine a world, you know, I can't imagine, from the time I was a kid, I cannot imagine a world where this kind of stuff would be coming up again. And so then I start, every time I'm hearing things, I'm like, say that again? What's going on? So I hope with my background in history and also I think I've done kind of more of a secular deep dive into religion in general, but Judaism in specifically, since I got out, really secularly looking at the archaeology, looking at the verifiable history. Hopefully I can give you a better perspective. One, on Judaism. I'm not an expert in Judaism. I did bring a couple books. I've got a lot of books. I read them all. But better perspective on Judaism in general, specifically the history. And I think I have kind of a psychological angle to think about when we're talking about Israel. And I think that can be for the good of Israel and the bad of Israel. Not necessarily the bad of Israel, like a thing to take in consideration anytime you're dealing with it. So that's me right there. You know?
And that's great. Thanks for all that. And you know, it's such a broad topic that like we could be here for 6 hours. You know what I mean? And I think for the purpose of narrowing it, like, you know, and I don't know, like it's not like Cody and I are exactly maybe 100% aligned, but it's just going off the like what we normally engage with and talk about in this topic. I think that for me and him and Cody, you can, you know, represent your own viewpoint. But like for me, it's like I'm willing to grant, like if it comes to kind of like, if it comes to the historicity of the Bible or, you know, the Jewish people's, you know, activities in that location historically, I'd be willing to grant, you know, in any of that. You know what I mean? Like that's not, to me, I'm willing to accept, you know, that they have some sort of like historical or, because you know, I just like we chat a little bit on via text, but it's like I do expect, I'm always going to expect people to act in their interests, you know, in the interest of their people. And so it's no surprise to me that like a bunch of different, you know, disparate, separate, competing groups are vying for, you know, power and control in that area. Like I totally get that. And I wouldn't expect like, you know, again, like in my millimeter deep knowledge of like the actual, you know, biblical claims to that area and all that. Like I'm not interested in arguing about that. I would like to hear about it, like from your perspective, but I don't think you're going to get much argument from us about that. What my kind of problems are come to, like, hey, look, like, I have it. I'm a citizen of the United States, and I have interests, and what I see, what I think I'm observing is people wielding power in a very specific way, and it's kind of like they're telling me it's about one thing and it's not, or they're using they're trying to kind of ply on my morality, make a moral claim for things that I don't think are substantiated. So and that's kind of sounds like nonsense, but I know we'll get into it in detail. But like I'm more interested in the, like, these claims where it's like, hey, so it's almost it comes to be like a struggle session almost, where it's like they'll pin you down and be like, are you a Zionist? And you go, well, what's a Zionist? And they go, well, a Zionist is somebody who believes that Israel or the Jews have a right to their own nation state. And then that's where immediately I'm like, well, what does that even mean? So Cody, I didn't want to talk for you, but
now I'm kind of like in an interesting spot on it, because I was raised in a fairly atheistic home, right? Like it took me until my later adult years to find spirituality in any sort of like meaningful sense, right? And like the meaningful sense that I'm a spiritual person now. And so having not really ever been tied to any particular religion growing up, it allowed me to sort of look at them all from an outsider perspective, and to just kind of, I was never sold on any of them, essentially, for lack of a better term. So, in my adult years, basically what I came to is an understanding that, the Abrahamic religions specifically, the people of the book, all three of them, the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews, are equally being herded by people who claim to be either or any of one of those three things, and who actually aren't. I think those three things, this is basically where I'm at. I think those three forces, or those three schools of thought, were curated in antiquity for the purpose of steering humanity. And I'm willing to lend credence to the idea that there are people who have plans that last centuries, if not millennia. And I think all three of those groups of folks are being played against one another. And that's kind of where I fall out on it, So I would hope that people that have listened to me throughout our shows would hear me be equally critical of Islam, equally critical of Christianity, and equally critical of Judaism, man. I'm highly critical of Christianity, as a matter of fact, like it's
organized anything. I'm critical of it.
Right. So that's basically where I'm at. I'm looking at all three of them from like an outsider perspective, and kind of looking at how they fit into the same narrative towards eschatology. That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm critical of anything organized. I think, like you said, Aaron, everybody's out for their best interest, and is always looking out for themselves first, and that's natural. That's something that I think if you just grasp that from the beginning, it's why one of the big reasons why I'm such a fan of free market capitalism. If you can protect and maintain that, because that's the one thing that says you get to vote every day with your dollar, that kind of thing. So it puts every individual, it's the Adam Smith, the invisible hand will guide, the market system. But I understand that most people control something. That's why we started out as a capitalistic country, and we've become a cronyism country. And, that's why everybody goes, well, no, real communism's never really been tried. It's because somebody eventually grabs it and starts pushing it in the direction in their favor. So if you recognize that from the beginning, I think it's one of the most, I have kids who I homeschool now, because I can't trust the system. Somebody's always going to try and grab that and steer it towards their power. So anytime anything is organized, I think a healthy thing to do is automatically be skeptical of it. At the smallest level, the largest level, you should. the first thing you should do is question it. I don't like what's going on over here. Maybe I don't have all the facts. I don't know yet. But right off the bat, my first leaning is I'm skeptical. So, yeah, I think that's just a smart mindset.
Josh,
for example, like Amazon, right? Let's use Amazon. I'm not skeptical of Amazon or any of the products that are on Amazon because I can look at the mass of people. This has 5 stars. This has 4 stars, right? That's all individuals voting on what the best product is, right? It's not being controlled by any single person. Maybe they have a little bit of control over what products they let on there or whatever. But once somebody has absolute control of something, then I immediately, whether it's the Lutheran church, the Catholic church, the rabbinic shuls or whatever, then I immediately get skeptical of any output from that place.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about, we're at a point now where like with these labels are they're not even usable. Like labeling somebody a Christian, and it's like, okay, Christianity, like, especially in the context of what we're talking about right now, right? Well, you could put two Christians in a room and ask them the same questions and get in vastly different answers vis-a-vis Zionism and the Jews. Like, and this is something we can get. I don't know how much you know about it or like the origin of it, but like evangelical Christianity, this is a recent, bolt-on kind of feature for Christianity. This is not dispensational Christianity is only as old as like 1910 or something like that, right? So right. This is, and then like Catholics and Eastern Orthodox have a totally different viewpoint. And then with Jews, like maybe let's start with this, like, because this is something me and Cody have wondered aloud about a bunch on the show. It's like, what exactly is a Jew?
Here we go. Yeah, great question. I think one of the most misunderstood topics out there, right? And it makes it easy for people to try and argue against Israel's existence. Israel, a bunch of white people to live in brown people's land, which is also fallacy, but which hopefully we get into that. So Lou Diamond Phillips, are you familiar with the actor?
Yeah.
He is 100% Filipino. I don't remember if his father left or whatever. He ended up marrying, his mother ended up marrying a Marine who named him after the famous World War II Marine Lou Diamond. So that's where he got his name, Lou Diamond Phillips, right? All Filipino. He does a couple movies. He did Young Guns, and I don't know if it was because of that or there was another movie where he portrayed a Native American. He was adopted by that tribe. I can't remember if it was the Lakota or if it was the Navajos. It was one of those two. He's adopted by them, right? 100% Navajo Indian now, or Lakota Indian, whatever, tribe, whatever. Now, go there and tell them he's not part of their tribe, right? I want to start off with that, kind of frame the context of what I'm about to say. Okay, so first of all, defining somebody, let's start with DNA. Defining somebody by DNA or a group by DNA is a horrible way to define a group. It's not something that any scientist or anybody else actually uses. As a matter of fact, you technically can't tell somebody's race by their DNA. If you take these DNA tests, what they're looking at is haplogroups, right? And they're trying to match little features of everybody and where they show up more in everybody. We share 99% DNA with chimpanzees. So how much do you think you share with a Chinese guy? So you share a lot of DNA. It's hard to tell the differences. But what you can say is you have red hair and green eyes, and this area generally has red hair and green eyes. You also have freckles. Well, these places have red hair and green eyes, but you have freckles. And you start to match small details. And that's when you do Ancestry.com or whatever. They start plotting all the similarities, right? So DNA is a bad way of defining groups, and scientists and historians generally don't do that. What they do is they give multiple names. So, for example, are you Irish? Yes, I'm Irish. Well, what does that mean? You were born in Ireland, the nation of Ireland. Technically, you're Irish, right? You have an Irish passport. But if you're looking at an ethnicity, do you have that DNA? No, I do not. So going back to DNA, if you follow that, technically the Irish are Celts, right? quote unquote Celts. Well, Celts were not defined as a ethnic group. They were defined as a cultural linguistic group, meaning that prior to the British Isles, they kind of spanned across the mid area of Europe, from France all the way to like Budapest and all that. And they shared a culture. They shared a language. It's kind of like Americans, right? That's how scientists and historians now define them, a cultural linguistic group. Did large pockets share the same DNA? Sure, absolutely. But overall, they weren't defined that way. So if you break it down to the Celts, they're not an ethnic group. Jews are an ethnic group. They're an ethno-culture group, right? So they're defined both by their ethnicity and their culture. Their culture, and in culture, you can throw language, you can throw religion, you can throw certain practices, but they're also extremely diverse in that some of their practices in multiple ways. You can talk about the differences in the variation of how Jewish you are, like you're Reform or if you're extreme Orthodox, right? And there's a bunch of them, different ones of them. Talk about whether you're Ashkenazi or if you're Sephardi, or if you're Mizrahi, B'nai Manash, or if you're Beta Israel. These are all different people. Kai Feng, there's from all over the world, little pockets of them went somewhere, got forgotten about some of them came back, and they brought back with them all these different practices. So extremely diverse, but they're defined as a cultural ethnicity or ethno-cultural group, sharing both ethnicity and culture. There's been a lot out about, blonde hair, blue eyes guy that came from Germany doesn't look like Palestinian Betty over here, brown hair, brown eyes. The thing is that they've done several, and there's this other lie out there that genetic tests aren't legal in Israel, which is a lie as well. But they've done several genetic tests. Like my family, for example, we are Sephardic Mizrahi. The Sephardim mostly came from the Levant, went through North Africa, Spain, and into parts of South America, some of them. So the Sephardic group, that's them. The Mizrahi mostly came from Arabic countries. So you find Mizrahi in Baghdad, you find them in Tehran, Yemen. The Yemeni Jews, there's a big group of them. So when you look at them, they're brown-eyed, brown hair, and you don't question it as much, right? Well, they did several genetic tests, and they looked back and they found that the Ashkenaz definitely have DNA that traces just as much as any Palestinian person, which we can talk about that as well, traces itself back to Canaan, back to the Levant. They found several ancient bodies, I guess. They dug them up and they did the DNA, and that's what they compare it to. So it's not like they just, it's 1948. Let's see how much DNA you got, as if they would, know what that means back then. And let's take the modern Jew from, Poland and test your DNA. They actually dug up bodies and they've connected the DNA from them. And as a matter of fact, I've done my own, and it looks like a roadmap leading straight back to Israel. So,
well, and it's a bit rich for people in the United States to be, kind of levying that challenge, because it's like, we're all, migrated to this place from Europe, where, once we got here, we wiped everybody that was here out,
DNA.
So, yeah. And, I think that, again, there's so many, so much of the discourse is like what you're talking about, like, well, why are these, Benjamin Netanyahu's a Polish guy, the problem with Benjamin Netanyahu is that's like the low on my list of, like, he's actually from Poland. That's the least of his problems. But I just think that, like, plus, like, what are we going to do? Like, are you going to convince, what are we arguing about? Because are you going to convince the people that are in the current nation state of Israel that was, given to them by the Balfour Decree or whatever? Are you going to, use logic and convince them that they should pack up and leave? No. So, like, this is not an argument that's really worth expending a bunch of energy on, because there's no resolution to it.
That's the same thing when they talk about, like, Native Americans. They're like, oh, this is stolen land. I'm like, what's going to happen, man? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
The largest, most powerful country in the world. We're just going to pack up our bags and figure out Am I more Italian or am I more German?
Yeah. Where am I
know?
going? Yeah.
Where am I going?
And it seems like that conversation regarding the Levant is kind of a throwaway conversation anyway, because it kind of goes back to the out of Africa thing that has basically been debunked, right? Like, so
Right.
when I did my DNA test, I unfortunately fell for that psyop, but initially when it came back, it rated me as North African.
Yeah.
Because the Berbers, the Caucasians of North Africa, and it's, I mean, you can find redheaded, blonde hair, like mummies in Egypt, I mean, that entire area.
China too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you scroll back far enough on the timeline, we're all going to end up in Turkey, and you know what I'm saying, like in the Caucasus Mountains as Caucasoids, and then we floated our way back down and around with like the Scythians and like.
Yep. Well, even to kind of put a punctuation on what you're saying, I'm going to get dates wrong and some names wrong here and there, but and I might get this slightly off. But if you go back 32 generations in anybody's family tree, the population of the world. So what's that mean? Well, it means we're all intermarried, interbred. We've all like, especially Europe. So, here's a great example of that. Any aristocratic, any powerful person who had many kids from Europe or any other place, everybody loves to do the Genghis Khan one, right? But you don't think about the European one. So if you have 1% European DNA, there's nearly a 100% chance that you're descendant from Charlemagne. And you can do that for a few other people. Now think about this. On average, I'm going to mess up some averages here and there, but generally, fact check me, but I'm generally in the ballpark. On average, most African Americans have about 20% European descent. So that means most of the people in the United States are descended from Charlemagne. You know what I mean? And that's just how genetics work, right? So when you talk about like, you go far enough back, you don't have to go that far back to go. I mean, I don't know if you had any, Ashkenazi or something Jewish population, but that goes another thing to history in that we tend to look at the Bible through a focus of kind of a lens of here's Israel, what's going on in the Galilee, right? But the reality is during the Roman Empire, Jews were spread all over the Mediterranean. So it's not like there was, and then later on people go, oh, I've got a little bit of Jewish in me. Yeah, of course. What are you, Italian, Spanish, German, French? Yes, there are Jews everywhere. So, and of course, just like there are many Muslims that to their, absolute horror do their DNA test and find out they're Jewish. Well, guess what? There is Jews all over the Middle East. And after the conquest that is Islam, they found a lot of them found that it was a little bit more lucrative to go ahead and convert. So same thing with Christianity. It's like, Constantine, this is our new religion. Yep, I agree. I get to keep my life. Well, everybody's happy.
I think one thing that is so, like, obviously, the Jews aren't leaving Israel, but I think where it does come into play is, the greater Israel project, and so, again, there's all these tropes like, oh, look, they've got the greater Israel, reflected on the IDF's patches, and they're working towards expanding, to completely seize the entirety of the Levant. Do you think that that's actually in the works? Like, is that something that the IDF or the Knesset party particularly is interested in? I mean, a bunch of these hard right Knesset types they do say that shit, but so, how likely is it, do you think, that they're working on that?
Here's the thing. No, first off, no. Okay. Very important question, because this is an early kind of like thing. Not early in one way, because it's been described that biblically, your lands extend from Abraham, you'll be whatever. But for the Jewish people, they were happy to get a speck of land. I mean, how many of these Arab countries are giving up their land? And the Jews have offered it officially, I think 4 times, but unofficially they've said maybe a few more. I think the West Bank is an example of just kind of like, let's see what we can do. But I don't think they should or ever will completely give up the West Bank, although that's not being exactly right, because the West Bank it's ruled in 3 different ways, A, B, and C. But no, this greater Israel thing is relatively new. My whole life, this is slightly anecdotal, but my whole life, my grandfather being there, I've never heard anybody mention anything of this. And the only thing that you mentioned the pastor, I didn't look this up. The only thing I might offer as a reason is the same reason why, some of our guys would wear a Crusader patch into Iraq kind of thing.
Yeah.
I absolutely do not. And then like to counter that idea is that the Jews or the Israelis have been more than willing. If you just let us live here in peace, we'll give you this. They gave up the Sinai. They mistakenly gave up the Golan Heights one time. They took it back and they're not going to ever do that again. Big mistake. They're slightly working with the West Bank thing. I think that they think they should just call a spade, talk to Jordan and just say, yeah, this is Israel.
Well, when I think about it, again, this comes into my like, dude, I'm basically at this point, I'm like an anti-war like isolationist. You know what I mean? Like I'm not interested in any more, and it kind of sucks because I'm of two minds about it, kind of, because I'm like, like our whole life was these nonsense wars in the Middle East, but I don't regret any of that. And frankly, if I had it all to do over again, I would do everything the same. And it's like, I'm grateful for that experience for very selfish reasons that don't have anything to do with anybody else or like geopolitics or the country or anything. For very personal reasons, like that was all like a good experience for me. But otherwise, like I'm against it. Right. But let's just say, like, even if the Greater Israel thing really was some like sneaky plan by, Benjamin Netanyahu and the Knesset guys to like, expand their territory. From my perspective, like, dude, we accept this kind of like divine right of conquest historically. Like like this is what people do. You don't get to like 2026, it seems to me, and just be like, well, the rules have now changed and nobody's allowed to conquer anybody else ever again. We're done with the conquering. Like no more conquering. Putin, you tried to conquer, we can't have it, so now we're going to pour all our resources into wasting all of our ordnance trying to fight you off. So even if that was the case, to me it seems like, look, if the Arab world has the huge problem with Israel that they say that they do, and they can convince me, like, I don't like when I look at Gaza, like I don't want to see, like, and we can, that's a whole nother argument about like, because people will just tell you like, okay, there was there's nothing excessive going on in there at all that the IDF did. I'm like, okay, fine. But let's just grant all that, right? Well, that's that part of the world. These are Arab people that should have common cause, like now, of course, we meddle, like we send the State Department and the CIA and make very sure that these Arab countries are at odds with each other and not united. I get it. But like, to me, it seems like this is a problem that, hey, if you don't want Israel to expand their territory, then you stop them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, and then it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're not taking my resources to like conquer these other places or whatever, then it's just a academic. I can have my opinion here in America about whether Israel should or shouldn't, and whether the Arab world should stop them or not, or whatever. But it's like, I'm selfishly focused on why, to what degree my country's resources are being used for that, and then also what is my country like morally tied to? Like, why are we teamed up? Like why am I constantly being told that Israel is our greatest ally and that I have some obligation to feel that way about it?
Or how did all these Christians get convinced that they're Judeo-Christians?
That one I do know a bit about. Yeah. That was a good topic.
I'd love to hear it. Like, I don't know exactly how that happened, but I have this thing where I've been around people and somebody would ask me, hey, what's a Jew? What's the difference between a Jew and a Christian? And I've had evangelical types jump in and define it for me. Like, oh, this is what. And I'm sitting there looking at them going, thank you for defining my religion for me, And I really fall more along the Baruch Spinoza lines of belief anyway, but I keep kosher. I do most of the things, but so the Remind me of the question. I'm sorry, I jumped off.
Well, so okay, let me frame a more exact question.
Yeah.
This partnership between let's
Okay.
put the theology. We'll do the theology later. Geopolitically,
No, yeah. Okay. I got you.
the partnership between Israel and America.
Can you might not know. You name anything. Okay, let's start this way. Do you know how many Jews are in the world?
I think 15 million.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, 16. It jumps up or down. 15, 14, 13, somewhere around there.
I get an alert anytime you add more than 100.
That's why I had a bunch of kids. Right, and you probably sniff out where I'm going with this. What percentage of the world's population does that make us?
0.02 or something.
0.0.
Yeah, it's tiny. What percentage of Nobel Peace Laureates are we?
A big percentage, but you also run the committee.
Okay, well, 20%. But let's just name some things that we made. Anything? I mean, you might not know, and it's not a gotcha moment. It's just like a, polio vaccine, right? Work with a lot of fireware. We did cell phones, basically, not everything, but Bluetooth. What's her name? Heidi Lamar. She invented frequency hopping. And people could probably pick apart a few small details of what I'm saying, but for the most part, let's see. There's a lot of medical things that we do. I can't remember everything.
No,
I think a Jewish guy invented the ballpoint pen.
Without a doubt.
And I hate saying we like I'm a part of this. I'm a fucking idiot. But we are Jews in general, but Israel specifically has been behind some of the most advanced technology in the world. Some of the things that have brought, a lot of us we're just Cro-Magnon cavemen that are being drugged along into the future by a few smart, intelligent people, and a large percentage of those people, Albert Einstein, blah blah blah, Oppenheimer. We might not like that one, but true, being drugged along by just a few intelligent people, not all Jews, but a disproportionate amount are Jews.
Yeah, but
hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
It would just because we're going fast and there's some presuppositions baked into that, right? So the presupposition is that we're being drugged somewhere that I want to go, right? So these technological advancements, like
that's why I said the Oppenheimer thing. Yeah.
Well, but any of it, like I just don't grant outright that this. So this is a teleological issue. So like we're headed towards some direction. Like there's a unstated position somewhere in the future. That's what progress is, right?
Right.
I, just personally, like as of last couple of years, I've really had to confront this. Like I'm more on some like Ted Kaczynski. Like I don't want to go. Like I don't want to go in that direction, right? So that's the kind of one kind of problem I see with that. And then the other thing is like, but let's say I agree that the Jews are clearly like Ashkenazi specifically, they're like statistically highest IQs and it's okay. Yeah. I grant that, and some of this like especially in the sciences, like this deep math stuff that like okay, I get it, yeah, for sure. But and so if the idea is that like we have some sort of obligation to protect this people group,
no.
I don't know if that follows logically.
No, and that's not the argument I'm trying to make at all. And we can get into I got the things we kind of want to talk about here, but one of them is there that duty, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe in it at all. I think I personally have a duty to my own country, to my own people, and I see my people as the American people. I think everybody else, including us internally, you need to speak for yourself. You need to prove your own merit. And that's one of my critiques of Israel. 100%. It's one of my critiques of Israel is they're very poor at communicating their own merit. And we can get into that later. But I know from, personal experience, like there's people I wanted to cover their mouth and say, shut the fuck up. You're messing this up. Right. My argument in this case is not that. And even when I go to this next part, it's not a zero-sum game. It's me or them, or it's not us or them. But I have communicated. I think we are all, very understanding of it, a lot of Jewish people, largely Ashkenazi, and that's another thing to talk about. And why. I think we don't ask why often enough. But have become so advanced in so many fields, economics, in for the good and bad, medicine, technology, and what they provided for the world. Yeah, like I said, with Oppenheimer, and I'd have to double check to make sure he's Jewish, but Einstein, a few other people. Yeah, absolutely. Do I want to go in that direction? I don't know, but we are being drugged in particular directions. Like you, I'm a semi-isolationist. I'm very libertarian in my views, with an asterisk next to that. See the notes. And that notes, as far as like the benefit of our society, is that I do understand that the barbarians are at the wall and they are inside the gates as well. So I think that there is an argument here and there for times when, yeah, I'm gonna take this person out because he's a threat to our country. That's a whole nother thing that we're talking about with modern issues. And again, I have, as you know, I have a couple of very good, reasons for not to get involved in anything. I would very much prefer for both my boys to never be in a war, get every piece of, bling on their uniform by going to air assault and Pathfinder instead of having to go to combat to get, their CIB. So, yeah, I'm on board 100% with that. And I'm not making an argument for one or the other. But again, you got one group of people, a lot of them have reestablished themselves in their homeland, which is the encompassment of Zionism, right? Mount Zion. And then you've got another group of people. We've thrown our hat in with those people. And besides sitting on a pool of oil that they didn't know was there or really understand what to do with it until, the early 1900s, of what have they provided for the world?
Oh yeah.
That's my real argument here is if I'm going to invest in something, and that's real, I'm talking investment.
Okay.
You know what? You screw me over, the investment's done. I don't care how much money you're making for me. So Israel, yes, no, maybe, thank you, see you later. But what have these guys done for me? All they're doing is sitting on a pile of oil, selling it to us. And other than partially helping to invent algebra, what else are they inventing for you? What else are they providing to the world? You might not like what all the things that these people are dragging you into the future with. What are these people dragging us into? You know what I mean? That's my real.
I'll accept the because you're not, you won't hear a defense of like, this isn't about like me taking the Arab world side against Israel or anything like that. But here's my issue. And I guess, you got to kind of treat the masses like a certain way. So there's a way that you communicate to everyone writ large to get the herd to go in the direction you want them to go. So it's like, I understand that. Right. But like, I would much rather just get the explicit truth. Like if there's some sort of benefit that we're getting, because look, from my perspective, we take, dude, it's personally insulting to me. Like the Jonathan Pollard thing. Like This is something, and again, this is an anecdote, right? So this isn't like you don't just like take one thing and be like, see, but that one thing, it keeps bubbling up. And just so in case people are listening aren't familiar, I'll just give the like 1 minute rewind of it. But it's like Jonathan Pollard, like when you're in the military and you do your annual counter intel mandatory training, they show you this fucking guy because he was what was he? I can't remember if he was Department of the Navy. Anyways,
Department of Navy. Yeah, he was Navy.
Department of Navy. He had access to a bunch of classified information that he stole. And when people explain it, they normally say he stole it and gave it to Israel. That's not exactly what happened. It's kind of worse. He took this information, and this is during the height of the Cold Wars, is in like the mid 80s, or maybe it's even earlier, late 70s, mid 80s, something like that. He's taken this information that Israel traded to the Soviet Union in exchange for nuclear weapons technology. So this is basically ultimately how Israel got its nukes that it still doesn't outright admit that they have. But anyways, they don't acknowledge that they have it. That everybody knows they have it. So Pollard, this is the height of the Cold War. This is like, we built an entire military industrial complex based on the looming threat of annihilation at the hands of the Russians. This guy Pollard does what he does, and then he's imprisoned for 30 years. Trump gets elected and pardons him, which is bad enough. And we can get into Trump's why Trump did that and all the Trump stuff with Israel. But so Trump pardons this guy. He flies home to Israel. And again, I expect people to act in their interest. So it's like, fine. Okay. He's a hero. He's a hero to the Israelis, or at least to certain people in the Israeli government. He's met like at the tarmac, with a heroes parade or whatever, like kissing his feet or whatever. And that's fine. That's one thing. But then the insulting part is our ambassador to Israel is like, he's in the U.S. embassy, like having tea and coffee with what's his name? The ambassador,
Huckabee.
Huckabee.
Oh, Huckabee.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, if I'd have done something like that, there's no way, 30 years later, I'm having tea in the, an embassy somewhere. So it's like we not only do we like accept this insult, we broadcast like to the American people and to Israel, like that there's a different standard. There's some sort of very special relationship. This is what the heart of what I'm getting at is what's with this special relationship. And to me, some Nobel Prizes and stuff doesn't get me there. Like, it's not enough. Like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, honestly, I'm not on the inside, so I can't tell you.
No, and I don't expect you to have an answer. I'm just kind of,
let me just speak for the broader, as a non-Israeli, speak for the broader, as somebody who has Israeli family, but speak to the broader Israeli people. As an Israeli person, I have no idea. Right? Like that's
and it's probably not something. Yeah.
That's honestly that's a question for our government and their government to answer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, because there's at least
what was the guy that leaked all the information? Lives in Russia now.
Snowden. Snowden.
Right.
What's the other guy?
Yeah, he leaked a lot of important stuff that really shows us how invasive and dangerous our government really is. You also signed a contract saying you weren't going to do that. So I honestly, the same thing. What would happen to me? If I did, I look at Snowden very similarly. Obviously he wasn't welcomed, and half of the story that you're telling isn't there of him being welcomed. But at the same time, he's no hero to me. You got this information. Now, Pollard didn't give us anything. He just stole from us. And I can't get behind that or the way he's being treated. I think maybe the Israeli government.
But I don't even blame. So I don't blame it. So this is, to me, in that situation, I don't blame Israel. I don't think Israel did anything that nation states engage in espionage. We engage in espionage.
Right.
They had a successful espionage operation that ultimately yielded them a technology that they desperately needed, especially in the context of we're surrounded by everybody that wants us, that has like a religious mandate to fucking kill us. So this is not my problem's not with Israel. Okay.
Yeah.
My problem is with, and it may just be that Israel is so successful with their espionage that they have managed to, and I think this is the case. I think that they have managed to infiltrate our government to a degree that our sovereignty is definitely the questionable at this point. And I'll give you another example. This is another thing that I have a huge problem with. And again, it's not something, when I say these things, it's not against Jews or Israel. It's like I said, it's like these are things that I would expect them to be doing, and I would expect us to be guarding ourselves from anybody doing. But it's these anti-BDS laws. It drives me crazy. There's 36 states in the country where, in order to hold office or to contract with the state government, you have to sign a pledge that says that you will not endorse or support any boycott of any Israeli company or government or function, anything like that. It's an anti-boycott laws that are installed in our country. There's no other country on the planet that has that kind of specific legal protection. This is a very specific thing, and I don't understand why. I don't understand it. Like I have a problem with that. And again, I have a problem. My problem's with our government. Government.
I have a problem as well, and I would probably postulate that that's not Israel's. I think you've already said this. I think you've already made this point, but let me just, translate it. That's not Israel's fault. And I think I have a suggestion. It's not Israel's fault. Definitely not the Jews' fault. But I haven't heard that, by the way. I would say that is certain individuals, and I feel like maybe super evangelical Christians that are kind of pushing that.
Yeah,
because they are the biggest supporters of Israel, and I cannot stand blind support for anything. I cannot stand it. If I vote for this or I vote for that, and then he ends up being a pedophile, I'm going to call him out on what he is. And I think that there amongst certain groups is a blind obedience, a blind do this. Okay, we're going to do that, and I can't get that.
You hinted at it earlier, but this is one of those examples. Like Israel has a PR problem for sure. Like, dude, come on, like everyone's like saw the Gaza shit. So whatever is the truth of that situation or whatever, the imagery is it's not ambiguous to most people that aren't Zionists or Jews, or they know how they feel about it. But then to the bigger, the other problems you have is you've got these people running around that are, dude, I have a reaction to some of these guys where it's like I saw a snake, like Rabbi Shmuley, Lindsey Graham. These people are not doing Israel or Jews any favor.
Nope.
Lindsey Graham, dude, Israel should put a hit out on that guy. Like he is not fucking helping anybody.
No,
dude.
he's
Like,
super hawkish, and he'll
oh my god,
yeah, he's been
dude,
hawkish
he's crazy.
forever, and anything that is pro-Israel and or just like let's bomb this other Middle Eastern country, he'll use it. And he'll jump to like, oh, we've got to protect Israel immediately. Yeah.
This is what gets my conspiratorial brain thinking, because I'm like Cody was talking about it before we got on. But say what you were saying about the part of the eschaton for the end times is the Israel the one that the evangelicals share with Israel about everybody having to flee back to Israel, basically.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Because once again, I think we're discussing this at the level that people accept it as being real. And I'm always that weirdo. It's like, hey, check it out. I think there's a whole nother level above this. I think we're discussing it at the level that we're told to discuss it at. Mm-hmm. But the people like say the Rothschilds that were instrumental in creating the state of Israel as it is now, these people don't believe in whatever you believe in, bro. Like they don't, like these people are extra. They believe in the old gods. Like they believe in the fucking dark gods. They might be worshiping Saturn, but they're not worshiping Yahweh, man. Like it's not. So I think essentially what they're doing is they're building up this end times stage show. Like the War on Terror was a stage show. They said some shit happened and they set up a stage and then we all went and performed on it. Right. Like we know firsthand that it was mostly nonsense and it was just a pageant, for lack of a better term. So I think what they're doing again is setting up this pageant of the end times in Israel for this particular, for the people that believe in it, essentially. See if I can't put a finer point on that. So the anti-Semitism that you see online now has gone off the rails. Yep. Right. It is reached a volume that is appreciable to the normies, right? Like you may have seen some anti-Semitic stuff, but it was in the past, say like, I don't know, 20 years or something, but it was all like very clearly crazy people, very clearly like, oh, there's some fucking neo-Nazi out in the middle of the woods over there spouting some anti-Semitic shit. Right.
And it was pointed at like you no one got away with it. Like,
yeah. And very, it was a big deal. Distinctly, yeah. It was like, no. But now what is like being a student of information operations, like you can kind of tell when the volume has been turned up. We would call it ambiguity increasing or ambiguity decreasing. Yeah. Right. In information operations. So if we want you to know exactly what the thing is, that's ambiguity decreasing. We would do something like drop the Epstein files to be like, hey, check it out. Like this is the Mossad doing this right here, right? Like we would decrease the ambiguity to the point where there is no other answer. Where ambiguity increasing is like we give you 1,000 different answers where it could be. It's like we just blow out white noise, right? It's like, oh, where it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. So it seems to me that in the information environment, which is the internet, this is what this is. Like this thing is not organic. This is one of those things that was given to us for a very particular purpose. I mean, it's called the net. right?
Yeah.
And it's also called the World Wide Web. What the fuck sits in the middle of a web? A spider. Like if you're in the web, you're not, you're prey, So in this thing called the World Wide Web, it seems like the volume has been turned up on the anti-Semitism. And to me, what that points at is essentially to get the diaspora of the Jewish people to not feel safe in wherever it is that they're currently living, to get them to pull back towards Israel as like
Can
a safe haven.
Can I read it just to give you the actual thing that you're saying? So it's often referred to as the ingathering of the exiles, kibbutz galiut. In Jewish eschatology, the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is not just a political movement, but a central spiritual requirement for the Messianic age. So look, maybe maybe people at the highest echelons of this thing really are, bought into this end times eschatology, both from the evangelical. This is what makes sense if the evangelicals are pushing it, because they definitely are. Like, I don't know, like they'll just come out and tell you, they're like, yeah, look, this happens. They build the third temple. Then the Messiah comes, at the very end, there's like a split between the Jews and these evangelical Christians. But Josh, do you what is your theological view of that thing? Have you ever heard of this ingathering of the exiles thing, or is it
no, it's the first time?
Okay.
So this is super interesting because I only watched Star Wars, but you guys watched Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and you're telling me who Luke's father is, and I'm like, I don't know any of that stuff. Really, it's an add-on to the rest of the story where Judaism doesn't go that far, and so we don't consider that much. To be honest with you, there's a few groups that talk about messianic type stuff, but it's not in the common discussions. Okay. I don't remember ever talking about that in
which is interesting.
It just seems like there's just like
what you're saying is super interesting and definitely compelling. It's just that and I could see the Rothschilds, which I wouldn't consider a Jewish family, although they are very famously a Jewish family. You know what I mean? In many ways, just simply because they're a money lending family from Germany hundreds of years ago, who are named after the symbol that was over their door.
The red shield.
They've come far from that, and I would say let's go ahead and do a DNA test on them. That would be interesting. But they're pretty far from that, and it's what you're saying is convincing, or it's compelling though.
Well, that's a good segue into something else we talk about quite a bit. It's the concept of people that are not actually, by some sort of technical way, they are Jews. So like the Rothschilds, yes, Jewish, but also not because they're not, practicing, any of the actual Judaic moral strictures or anything like that. They're not doing anything that a normal Jew would do, but they technically are, right? So we talk about and again, this is a theory. This is not something I'm saying is definitely happening, but it seems to me that some of these people that identify as Jews are able to use their status as Jews as a shield to criticism and liability. So kind of like, hey, they're engaged in something that's, ethically questionable or unscrupulous or criminal, outright criminal. And they use their status as Jews to be like, you're only coming at me with this because you're anti-Semitic. You know what I mean? Like, once again, you're trying to, round us up and they kind of invoke the Holocaust or whatever. And some of the lower level, mouthy ones, like your Rabbi Shmuley types, will just basically do that all the time. But I'm talking about bigger picture type stuff, like this way of using this special status that Jews seem to have. Like we just talked about Pollard. Like there's some sort of relationship that they seem to be able to leverage that gives them power. So.
Yeah, Pollard's a weird case because he was able to find refuge in a small but powerful country that is, doted upon by especially certain individuals, not necessarily the country, at times, but especially certain individuals or certain groups. But I wouldn't say I mean, my daughter was sick the other day and she was fine. She didn't, I'm good, Dad, whatever. But my son was sick the other day and he's a pretty strong little boy. It's tough, likes to show us how tough he is. But the second he was sick, he wanted mom over him. There's a natural human tendency to go, it's because I'm black, or it's because I'm this, or it's because, so the whole, like, maybe it happens because this one middleman minority has become powerful enough that means a little bit more. But honestly, like, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with, using this as the example or the reason why you're getting picked on. It's because I'm Mexican that I'm getting picked. No, it's not. It's because you committed a crime. And I think it's a natural human tendency to immediately find the back door to get out of any, problems that you get into.
Yeah.
I think the problem that we're dealing with are what people refer to as shapeshifters. Kind of, but not shapeshifters in the way that you think of as like like a fucking lizard or some shit. Like, I think that's the easy way out, but it's the shapeshifter in such as this. Like, it astounds me how most humans just don't understand that there are people that will lie directly to your face with no problem. Like, it seemed like they think that thing does that, like that doesn't exist. And I don't understand how they came across that theory. But I think that what we're dealing with are people that are above religion, essentially. But they use religion as a shield. In Judaism, this would be like your Sabbatean Frankists. It's people where they're not traditionally living in the way that is prescribed by Judaism. They're doing the inversion. They're doing the opposite. They're eating on fucking fasting days, and they're feasting on it's the inversion of all religion. There's not a single way in hell the Pope is like a Catholic, like the dude down the street is a fucking Catholic. Like, the Pope is a fucking devil worshiper.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like the Saudis, that's the House of Saud. That's a creation of England. They're pissing on fucking Instagram bitches. They're not like, those aren't Muslims. They're not Muslims like the Muslims that I've served with or next to, they're generally good people. I think what we're dealing with is a class of people that uses these, specifically Abrahamic religion. It's always kind of interesting to try to figure out where the Asians fit into all this shit. But specifically the Abrahamic religions, they get us down here discussing this at this level. We're at the upper. Do we think Bibi Netanyahu has any kind of fucking religiosity or spirituality in his body whatsoever?
Or like Trump, or Trump's
dumbass.
Yeah. Exactly.
Basically what we're dealing with, in my estimation, are shapeshifters. They will say whatever they need to say to get their goalpost moved forward.
It's the dark triad, and those people have done that. I mean, it's one of the classic traits of any sociopath or psychopath is to immediately adopt whatever form they need. I was just watching something about this the other day. It was about an anime that was, basically demons have learned to look like humans, right? And they've learned to say certain things. And the example, and I can't, my daughter will probably tell you exactly what cartoon it is, because all my kids love anime. But basically, they go to this demon in the shape of a little girl has gone to kill some other child, and they go to hunt it down. And when it comes time to execute this demon, she starts crying for her mother and saying, "Why are you doing this?" Right? And then he says, "Well, you know what? Maybe I can raise this child in a good way, right?" And it turns out, and you can take this allegory and you can put this template over a lot of different things, but after years and years of doing this, she ends up killing the village elder and killing a bunch of other people. So they go to hunt this thing down again, and finally the hero of the actual show ends up getting this demon to admit, yeah, those words don't mean anything to me. They're just magic words I use to get out of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a very observant way to numerous people throughout history. I mean, there's really two ways to get ahead. There's the I'm going to be Genghis Khan and I'm going to conquer you. and there's the one where, what is it? Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. There's the one where I'm going to be behind the scenes, and I'm going to say whatever I need to get there. And at the end of the day, if you've read the books, really Littlefinger is the guy that was behind everything. He caused the entire thing. So a lot of different allegories I just threw out there. I apologize for that. But yeah, absolutely. I think there are chameleons out there. I think there are people that will say anything they want. I think that disproportionately certain groups have gotten ahead because of particular practices that I think are worth looking at. But they've gotten ahead, and then certain individuals have used that in nefarious ways for nefarious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that those people would be in, like, let's just take the Jews, for example, right now. Like, it's perfectly within their practice to scapegoat that entire population group that they're wearing the skin suit of,
Yeah.
Like they'll happily, and I think I can't remember, I was watching, I think there's historical precedent for Jews being scapegoated in other times and other places. And I wish I could remember. Yeah. There's a couple of the standout ones in Europe where it was like the kind of the exact thing we're talking about. It was like one clump of elite Jews that were not attached to the larger Jewish community in any like substantive way, literally had nothing to do with the rest of the population group, got into all kinds of wild shit and got everybody, tossed out on their neck.
Yeah, I mean, I forget who said it, but the search for a scapegoat is the easiest, or the hunt for the scapegoat is the easiest hunt ever. So if you find that one individual who got ahead, and right or wrong, the Jews have gotten ahead several times throughout history. And I'm not going to defend the Rothschilds whatsoever. I don't know any of them, and they're not paying me. If they were, I would protect them. But
it's the other thing. There's a lot of anti-Semitism, or like the Jewish question or whatever. It's a good opportunity to be lazy too, because it'll be like George Soros. So, give me some examples of how the Jews have made your life hard. And it's like, well, George Soros. And it's like, well, George Soros is not a Jew in the way that it's not reasonable to describe him as a Jew, because, though he technically is one, but didn't he also during the Holocaust?
Yeah.
He
became part of the
capturing Jews or something.
Yeah. He was pointing out people. It became part of like the Hitler Youth thing in Hungary or something.
But you know what I mean? Like it's like it's lazy. He's a problem for other reasons. Now you're conflating two things that are not.
Generally, when I think I look at a lot of history, especially when we're looking at it through a political, ideological lens, a power lens. I look at history as the sleight of hand, and the second somebody's doing this, look over here. You should be looking somewhere else.
Yeah.
And when everybody's doing that, I'm like.
So here's a problem. Here's a problem, and it's along the same line. So I'm sure, have you seen these charts where it's like they were kind of more popular during COVID because all the everyone was freaking out, and they're like, look, it's the Jews, and it'd be like it's the Jews chart. So it's like they'll give you all the pharmaceutical companies, right? And then they're labeling with the Star of David, like who's in charge of all these companies. So it'll be like all the financial, BlackRock or whatever. They're going to show you, And so, and then if you look, so you see the chart, and you're like, geez. So you look into it, right? You start Googling, and you're like, okay, it is the case that these people are in those positions or whatever. So then you have to decide, is it incidental? So this is a problem with the Jews being a victim of their success, because it's like, is it just incidental that these people are in those positions, or is it evidence of some sort of, because then if you think it's evidence of something, then you have to convince yourself that they're somehow like having Jew meetings, you know what I mean? Like all the pharmaceutical Jews are having like a pharmaceutical Jew meeting or whatever, when in actuality, those companies are in competition with one another. So, but it's, I'm not saying that those charts are meaningless either. Like look, it's just the case. Like, look,
here's what the problem with those charts are, is those people don't know astrotheology.
Okay.
And here's the problem. Before there was a Yahweh, before there was a Jesus, before there was a Muhammad, before there was any of that shit, there was the luminaries above our head. And since we stumbled out of the caves or wherever it is that we came from, we've been looking up at those luminaries and ascribing to them things. And, I think it even says it in Revelation that God has like 7 flaming eyes or something like that. Well, that's the 7 luminaries. You know, this goes back to me saying that they've dumbed down the population and given us a fucking story, right? And so when you're talking about black rock, black stone, black cube, what they're talking about is the cult of Saturn, and they're just not going to talk about it to the plebes in like the cult of Saturn. They're just going to say, "Oh, well, that's the fucking Jews," because it just happens to be that the Jewish situation that they've built over the years are the ones that they have put under Saturn for whatever fucking reason, right? Like the Christians are under the sun. That's why they worship on Sunday, and it'll fuck all the Christians up when you talk about like the sun being their risen savior. They'll be like, the God's son is their risen savior, and that's why they worship on Sunday. And they're like, yeah, we're talking about Jesus Christ. No, fool, you're talking about the fucking sun.
Mhm.
You're talking about the sun is the light of the world. And in the English language, there's this thing called a lazy O, where you can swap out the U's and the O's in words interchangeably in the English language, right? So this S-U-N, sun, is sometimes referred to as the S-O-N, your son, right? It's Jordan Maxwell that got me hip to all this shit. And I just started actually reading about it. So the Muslims are essentially fucking Venus worshipers, Freya. That's why they worship on Friday.
Yep.
So your three religious holidays, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is Venus, the sun, and Saturn. It's our owners. It's the human farmers who are astrotheologists, and they worship, and essentially, the I keep fucking this word up. The apotheosis of the ego. It's basically man as God, right? And they use, I guess, a veneer of astrotheology. But here, let me share this real quick, because I do think the Jews are being scapegoated, man. And it's actually a Jewish chick that kind of got me hip to this, man. I was in Israel doing a small unit exchange from MARSOC. And I was fresh into my divorce, man. So I was super not interested in the Israeli military because I knew for a fact that we were just going to come save them if anything happened. I mean, it's impossible to not think that, right? There's only a few of them.
I want to come back to that.
Yeah, like it's so I was just smashed, dude. And I had met this super hot like manager of this restaurant of Tel Aviv, and I was, I was just like walking her back to apartment one day, and she used to keep bringing up like, sorry, I was trying to find something. She used to keep bringing up like geopolitics, right? And I was, and in my brain, I was like, yeah, your next door neighbors are trying to murder all of you.
Because what was her name?
What's that?
What was her name?
I don't remember, man.
I probably know her. Anyway,
yeah, but she's like, she was telling me shit that I would say now. I just wasn't smart enough to see at the time, which is like, hey, those are just people, like I would see an Afghan and somebody would tell me, yeah, all the Afghans are trying to kill you. And I'm like, no, they're just trying to fucking like find a window to throw their piss pot out of, because that's all they have. Like they have a goat. They're not trying to fucking kill me. They're just trying to farm, it's just a made up thing, right? Well, here, fuck. We'll just do this real quick. And
since there's a Star of David on there, I'd like to point out that that's a relatively, as far as not what you're about to say, as far as being part of Judaism, it's relatively new.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Jordan Maxwell got me hip to when I started listening to him way back when. I forgot how I even found that dude, but I started listening to him around 2017 type 18 type time frame when I really had enough time on my hands to start digging into all this stuff. And he's the one that kind of got me hip to this. So right now, what we should be looking at on the screen is the hexagram that's on allegedly on the north pole of the planet Saturn.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Like this guy right here.
Yep.
See if we can pull that up real quick. Oddly enough, that's on the fucking north pole of the planet Saturn, which is a trip. All right, we're just gonna so I don't butcher this here. We'll just play it fast.
This is why the Jews wear the little black square on their forehead. That's a symbol for the planet Saturn. Incidentally, the Star of David is, of course, a hexagram. And on the planet Saturn, on the North Pole, is a hexagram. A lot of people don't know that. Go on the web and just look for Saturn's hex, or the hex on Saturn, and you will see a large hexagram, far, far bigger than the Earth could ever be. A large hexagram on the North Pole of Saturn. fascinating symbolism right in front of you. We've known for many years that this hexagram was on Saturn. Hexagrams we call today the Star of David. No, the Star of David is a hexagram, and the hexagrams always represented in the ancient world the planet Saturn. So this is why the Jews still worship Saturn on Shabbat or Sabbath. The earth today is run by religion, politics, and money. It's all one game.
Pointing that out. So then you go to things like, so Saturn is about control. If you talk about the astrotheology of Saturn, right? It's the old man Saturn. It's like he's depicted as the father that eats his children because he doesn't want to die, essentially, right? Saturn is the representation of time. It's a representation of not necessarily, well, justice, but not necessarily justice in such a way as you getting what you deserve, essentially, is what Saturn is. Like Saturn is like the reaper of your fucking consequences, right? Like everything that you've done in this life, like this is a cause and effect existence, right? Like Aaron said in the text, like nobody ever gets out of anything you've ever done. Like one of these days, like you pay the price, and that is essentially Saturn in astrotheology. So Saturn is like control without care, whereas God's son, the sun, gives off light and warmth and love. Like Saturn is control without any of those things. Saturn is control for the sake of control's sake. It's like the Borg show up in a cube in Star Trek, right? They're in a fucking cube, and it's like mindlessly controlling. Like the symbolism of a skull and crossbones is thought, the head, and action, the arms, without the heart. You've killed your heart, and you can just take action and thought. That's a Saturnian principle, and that's why those fucking weirdos in the Bohemian Grove do the cremation of care ritual, because they're killing care out of their body. Like they can function with just thought and action without the care of the consequences of it. So moving into things like Blackstone. So BlackRock owns basically fucking all of us, right? And that's a controlling style of energy, right? It's like, yeah, like control without for control's sake, period. Did I butcher that too much? Let me
Yeah, if I could just interject here, like,
yeah, go ahead, buddy.
yeah, I don't disagree with controlling entities throughout the world, and obviously that some monkey is going to try and climb on top of the heap. That guy was a little that's a little out there as far as like why we're wearing. I don't do this. It's very clearly explained in the Talmud why Jews wear the black squares, which have specific prayers inside them, on their head. And it's funny that he didn't mention the arm. Because that's an important part of it. I think it's reaching with the hexagram on Saturn. Not that doesn't exist there. I saw those pictures. I don't know. I haven't verified. But then like say, and that's the Star of David. Well, it wasn't the Star of David. You know what I mean? So that part I have a hard time with, because it's reaching without any evidence whatsoever. And when you can demonstrate a reason for one thing in this collection of encyclopedias over here, this is why we're doing this, and then somebody comes along and says, oh no, they're doing it because of this, and then say, well, and that's why they wear the little hats, and that's why there's a hexagram, Star of David. I didn't see a Star of David. I saw a outward hexagram. That one's hard for me on that.
So the important thing with geometry, that's why they probably don't tell you a lot about it in school, is you always need to finish out the lines, right? So people, like, we have a pentagon.
Yeah.
We take our orders from. Well, a pentagon, if you finish the lines out, is the inside of a pentagram.
Pentagram, yeah.
Yeah. So we essentially take our orders from the pentagram. So the hexagon, if you continue the lines out, there's little triangles at the edge of each one. So it will essentially make the Star of David, the Seal of Solomon, whatever you want to call it. It's why, like, there's a lot of the symbolism, like for NATO, for example. If you break apart those little triangles in there, you can pretty easily like reform a fucking swastika. it's all about essentially hiding what is actually going on, like from the plebes. You know,
But my thing is why put it there at all? Why let anybody even like, hey, later on we can decipher this if
because
they're
they know
smart enough.
nobody's
So
going to
let's
look.
just. I mean, people are looking. So why do they keep doing it then?
Well, here's an interesting thing. Like, so somebody put this out as kind of like a flex, right? It's some shit I saw on Instagram, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, like 14% of us are what you would call pure bloods because we didn't take the jab, right? So they're trying to flex, right? That they didn't take the jab by saying that, oh, and there's 14% of us that are still like this. It's like, well, hey, man,
Only
what that
14%.
really means is there's 86% of people who did. And it flips back to what we talk about a lot, which is called the Milgram experiment. Not the Milgram experiment. It's the Asch conformity test. Like,
yes.
essentially, all you need is we'll call it 70%, because that's what the Asch conformity test usually shows, is that 70% of people are just going to go the fuck along, dude. It doesn't
Is this
even
the
matter.
the shock one?
No, that's the Milgram one.
Okay.
But the Asch conformity kind of leads to that, you know, that they're going to go along with the basically Stanford prison experiment, where you're like, hey, that guy's got a lab coat on, so he knows more than you do, and then you start pushing the button type thing.
Yeah.
But I think they put this stuff. Well, one, I think a lot of the conversations between people in high places, like, to me, as like, once again, like the Reformed atheist, I have like a one-on-one relationship with God now. I accept no fucking intermediaries, no tree spirits, no fucking Jesus, like nobody between me and the fucking honcho himself. That's it, right? One-on-one type thing. I think what's going on is a lot of the people that are extra national, right? Call it the what's a good term for it? It's the
I know.
the controllers of global finance. There's like a above national level of people, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey man, I've got $1 trillion and no passport. You know, it's like it's
right.
Those type of folks. I think what they use in order to communicate with one another are cryptograms. And cryptograms are something that we would learn in something like SEER school, right? Where it's like it's a marking. Where if I go out to the road at a certain time of day and I put out 3 sticks, well, if you know what you're looking for, you see those 3 sticks and you know what they're all about. Well, if you're operating at a certain level and you see a black cube, you see a black rock, you see a black hexagram, which are all over the fucking place, then you understand it's like a Masonic handshake without the necessary need for a handshake. You know, it's simply code in a, you know, it's hobo talk. Like people will use hobo talk and dog whistles to get around saying certain shit, right? Like we say the jab instead of the vaccine or something. Well, it's just their version of hobo talk. Like if you know, it's like in the movie Blade where there's a vampire sigil.
Right.
And if you know what you're looking for, then you know what you're looking for. And I think that's essentially what we're dealing with at a level that's above all of us. Like it's very important for us to fight. Right. It's very important. Yeah, for us to be fucking killing each other. Because if we were ever to stop and be like, you know what, I know a shit ton of Muslims, man, and you know they're just trying to pull fucking food out of the ground. They're just trying to like make sure their kids are fed. They're trying to have a peaceful night and smoke a fucking hookah, man. I've been to Israel. They're just trying to party. They're just trying to have a good time at the regular level of people. You know, at the Christian regular level of people, you know, there's just people with a fucking 9 to 5 who really love usury for some unknown fucking reason. You know, but it's just regular people. But if I'm at the level of a human farmer, I need to set these fucking people against one another. Like they at no time can they just decide like, hey, doesn't your God like peace and love and chill? Like, well, my God loves peace and love and chill. Doesn't your God love peace and love and chill? Like, what the fuck are we killing each other for?
All these gods just like to, you know, have peace and love and chill. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, like I'm pretty sure these Muslims just want to fucking like take their cheetah for a walk on a sand dune and sit on a rug, dude. Like I don't. You know, I'm pretty sure the Israelis just want to drink fizzy drink and party at the fucking beach, man. And
fizzy bubble.
Yeah, and the Christians just want to get a new loan. So I don't like it's so I went on a bit of a tangent there, but the reason why they don't just put it out there, or I think the reason why it's out there and people don't see it for what it is, like here, I'll find another fun one to make fun of the Catholics. is because you're not told to see it.
Yeah,
You know?
and see, that's not my question. My question isn't like why people don't see it. My question is that people are seeing it. You're seeing it, and I've heard similar things, not exactly this, but I'm like, why put it out at all? You know, why give
What do you mean?
anybody any indication that anything's happening?
There's so in the occult, what was called is the revelation of the method, and it can also be called the duper's delight, which is like it's one thing for me to fool you, and nobody ever knows about it. It's even a greater thing if I could tell you that I fucking fooled you right to your face, and you still go along with it.
Okay.
You know, it's like these people are psychopaths, man.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
run the fucking
absolutely.
world.
Well, I mean, I think psychopath's probably the wrong word, because a psychopath would never do anything like that. A psychopath, you know, they're going to conceal it till the end, and then they're going to hit you over the head in the woods and bury you in a thing while they're wearing your underwear. But
I think that's what Hollywood puts out, man, is that I think we're given a false idea of what I think we're shown low functioning psychopaths and
Sure.
like you know in your monster movies and shit. But one of the ones that we do see is for a high functioning psychopath is Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter is a high functioning psychopath. So I read this book called The Psychopath Test on one of my deployments because I was kind of concerned about myself. You know, I was like, hey man, like a lot of this shit doesn't faze me. Seeing motherfuckers blown apart and like plotting to murder dudes, like I should maybe feel some kind of way about this, man. So I was reading this book. I saw it in the Jordanian airport. I was jumping from Baghdad to Jordan to reset my visa. And I just saw it in the airport. I was like, oh, looks kind of interesting. Let me read this. Right. And so what they're talking about in there is, 4% roughly of people
Right.
on the planet are psychopaths.
Right.
And so what that means when you extrapolate it is 4% of billionaires, 4% of trillionaires, 4% of fucking highly effective people. And Ted Bundy, for example, that dude was a very gregarious, outgoing, smiling. He worked at, political campaigns, and there's specific character paths, for lack of a better term, that I think actually promote psychopathy. And like
I was going to say, I think that's the wrong extrapolation. I think that it's not 4% of billionaires. It's nearly 100% of billionaires.
Well, there you go.
Because it's like saying, how many CEOs are men? Well, nearly all of them, minus a few women, because men tend to drive towards that. Well, psychopaths tend to drive in those directions as well. So it's going to be a higher percent than 4%.
So check this out, man. This is right next to the fucking Vatican. I forgot what it's called. It's at
Have you been there?
To the Vatican?
Yeah,
no.
I've
To
been
like
there.
Have you? Yeah.
The St. Peter's.
Yeah.
This is like St. Peter's building or some shit.
This Basilica.
Yeah.
Well, this is right in the fucking
That's
Catholics'
audio
faces,
call.
man. This is a giant building shaped like the fucking head of a snake.
Wow.
And this is the Pope up here doing his little Pope shit, and this weird zombie fucking lizard thing in the back is supposed to be a depiction of like Christ after a nuclear bomb or some shit.
Can you go back to that and enlarge it so I can? That is.
Yeah, it is. It's a nuclear. It's a crazy. That shit's crazy.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't see that.
So,
I don't know how old that is. I didn't see that thing when I was there.
If you look at it from this side, it looks like a straight up lizard head. And this clearly looks like some Dante Alighieri fucking 14th century Dante's Inferno style shit. But yeah, dude, it's this building, which is nothing but, I mean, here,
that looks like a relatively new place, right? That doesn't look like it's.
And it's not. I don't think it's a place that the public has access to. It says it's the Pope's audience hall or something. I think it's like an auditorium.
Yeah, that looks really new.
Yeah, you can walk around in that thing. I don't think.
Like you're gonna tell me no, but like none of the architects or anybody was like, "Hey, boss, this kind of looks like a giant fucking snake's head," and like these. You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, this is the Swiss Guard right here, and you can always tell who's in charge of the fucking person by who guards them.
Right.
Like the Praetorians in Rome.
Yeah.
And the Pope is protected by Swiss guards. It's kind of interesting how Switzerland's never been fucking invaded, right? Like, Like Switzerland's like a real problem, man. Like that, we could go down the rabbit hole on that. But so to me, like this is one of those things where it's not just Judaism who is being used, man. Like this is like
The entire world,
the
right?
entire fucking world, man. And that's why I'm like, it sucks because unfortunately, I mean, none of the three of us are stopping what's coming down the pipe, dude. And you can't just turn back on any of the shit that they fucking blown up, like the fertilizer and everything that they fucking destroyed. Like I always use this analogy of the last scene in Gladiator where Russell Crowe gets stabbed in the fucking lung before he rides the elevator up. Hey, the movie's over right there. He's dead. Like that fucker's got a sucking chest wound and he ain't going nowhere but dying, right? But you just have to watch the rest of the movie play out before the dude dies. They are introducing sucking chest wounds in society on that Straits of Hormuz shit, right? And the Israeli populace isn't winning because of this. The American populace isn't winning because of this. The fucking Iranian populace definitely ain't winning because of it. So everybody 6 months from now, because I don't see an off ramp to this. I don't see fucking Trumpito unless he's like, oh, we totally won. We're the best military ever. Our SecDef beat everybody and now everything's fine. It's like, well, hey, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
But, all that liquid natural gas and all this shit that you've destroyed up till this point, all these fertilizer. I mean, it's a problem that we have yet see come to fruition, right? It's a stab in the lung that we've yet to see the thing from.
Dude, I think I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could to bring it down back to something more contemporaneous. Like Josh, how do you feel about this whole this Iran thing? Like it's now being for all the right wingers and MAGA people and whatever. Like in order to stay on that team and be on that side of the fence, what you now have to accept is that it's like although we campaigned on. These are the very same people that were like castigating Biden for even thinking about doing anything in Iran. So now we have to accept this completely new paradigm. And it's like America seems to have no ability whatsoever to have any populist resistance to anything. So if it's the Dems that are fucking up and doing stuff that's quite obviously insane, open borders policy, all the stuff they get into, then the Democratic aligned people just go along with it. Whatever that team says, that's good. And then Trump starts doing completely insane shit. And then all those people, it's like they've somehow mitigated the American spirit to the point. And maybe just is like we're so like spiritually bankrupt. Like everybody's in debt or it's like we've strayed so far from. And I know, like Cody, you don't like any kind of organized anything, but like, dude, in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, there's an ethic, and participating in that ethic has certain requirements. And part of the reason you go to a temple or you go to church or you go to the mosque is because it's hard to maintain that ethic and walk that narrow path by yourself because the world's a complicated place. So it's like people come together. New information about the world comes in, and then in a community way, you navigate that. You figure out how to maintain your ethic. There's no Christian ethic. Like you go to most Christian churches, and there's a fucking dude with sleeve tattoos swinging around on a wire while fucking sparklers go off and shit. And they're, you know what I mean? And it's and I don't know what the Judaic moral system is or whatever, but like they seem perfectly fine with things like abortion and pornography and things like this. So like as I get older and I get interested in this stuff, I see that like there is a fucking there's rules, you know what I mean? And I think when you stray, the path's very narrow, right? And once you stray off, then you're susceptible to all this demonic shit, all the loans, all the like. I think these people, the thing you're describing, Cody, like these people, it's like a spiritual problem. That's why it's like maybe they're not even fully human, like these people that are like inhabiting the Pope's body or whatever. Like I think it's a spiritual war, and like and again, this is just me on my bullshit, but like you weaken yourself. you know?
So to lean into what you're saying, man, there's a couple Christians that I really like, right? Like I like anybody that I feel like is really about what they're saying, right? Like just be about what you say you're about, man. You know, but one of them is a dude named Tim Hogan, right? And this is a dude who, much like you guys, have killed a fucking few baker's dozens worth of motherfuckers, right? But so I was asking him one day out in Iraq actually about some Christianity stuff, and I was like, "Hey man, like what is your take on this?" Right? And he quoted a verse. I don't remember what the fuck the number is, but what he said is it's. I'll probably jack it all up. I'll find it.
Paraphrase.
Yeah, but basically, it's like we fight not against like the flesh or whatever it is. We fight against like evil in high places, principalities and powers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's essentially what it is, man. Like it's like we call things nations. I bet it really is principalities.
Yeah, it's
You know?
Ephesians 6.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, we struggle against evil in high places.
Yeah, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You know, and I think that is amongst all three of the Abrahamic religions. Like once again, it's always kind of weird to figure out like how exactly China fits into all this shit too. And it's like sometimes I think they just got those folks and they're just straight up fucking automatons at this point, right? And they're just going to go along with whatever. But
Josh, can you have like can you make a case for like I assume are you for or against the whole Iran thing? Or can you make a case for why it's good? Or if not good, why, like how we benefit?
How it can be good. I mean,
yeah, how
anybody
it could
can.
be good.
Yeah, anybody can.
Yeah.
Just like we went back to the, right of might, and we win and you lose.
Yeah, but I don't like if someone told me to make the case, I don't know if I could. So I want to hear what
your rights extend as far as your spear reaches. And those people did not, or that regime did not like us, and they would. Here's what I will say: having to stay up late at night worrying about my two boys that are going away.
Are they close to 18?
Well, they're already in.
Oh, are they in the military? They're in the army?
One is with the 75th Rangers, and the other one's with the 82nd. God
damn, bro.
One's been gone for a while. The other one's getting ready to go. I just talked to him right before I got on with you guys. Look, one thing I had to get comfortable with while I was, going with my degree, because I was really challenged as somebody that always loved history, and I watched 300 and Braveheart, and I'm like, oh, this is the way the world is, or this is what happened. And then I was challenged by a particular professor that I didn't necessarily like, but he challenged me to prove my point, right? And I think anybody who's had to get a degree has had to quote and give the references. And I had to get really comfortable with, especially in the, some of the sciences, with the phrase that I don't know. So this is what I know.
Great phrase.
Yeah, I know that they have said that there was a case to be made about going to war because, and I absolutely think, can't prove it, but I think that if they could get to enriched uranium to the point that they could make a bomb, there's at some point somebody would have eaten one, probably Israel, and we would have eaten another one in downtown LA or Washington DC, which that wouldn't be that big of a problem. At some point we would have had a piece of that pie. Okay. I just don't like that regime. If I don't like governments in general, I've got to be consistent across the board, especially when it's put with the flavor of an extremist organization that doesn't like us, right? Again, asterisks next to my libertarianism, the barbarians are out there. Some of them are already in the gate. So my case is that I don't know what was going on over there. What I do know is that the government has said, and I remember when the Security Committee of Congress was brought in for a secret briefing, somebody who has no love for Trump whatsoever, Chuck Schumer, comes out and he can't say anything good, he can't say anything bad, but one thing he can say is, well, I guess now you got to convince the American people.
Yeah, but Chuck Schumer's is an Israel guy.
He's a
He's
Jew.
a huge. He's
And don't
well.
don't
He's a Jew,
don't
but he's also
don't conflate
no.
Jews.
But I mean,
and sometimes he's not. Don't conflate Jews. He has and he hasn't, because a lot of
well,
times
I
the
didn't
Jews
say
are the
Jew. I
most
said he's an
anti-Israel
Israel.
people out there.
Okay, but I
And,
mean,
and,
he's
you know, feeding a kid because
okay.
I love the kid, I give him candy. That doesn't make me pro kid, because a lot of times the thing you do for somebody is not the best. But
Dude,
I'm sorry. I get what you're saying.
No, but I think that if what you're saying is true, if there was some compelling case, then they need to fucking tell the American people what it is. And
I don't know.
I
That there's a
don't
compelling
buy
case.
any like sources and methods shit. Like
Again,
I'm fuck
way
right
over
off.
sources
They
and
have
methods.
they
Again,
have
I don't know.
squandered. Yeah, they have squandered. No reasonable person can trust what these people
Nope.
say anymore. So
absolutely.
they now have an obligation to, and they won't do it. They will not. We will never get any information. And you know, in actual reality, what's kept the peace to this point is the Iran using a very purposeful brinksmanship with their nuclear weapons development. They maintained an enrichable amount of uranium that's, you know, that they're open to inspection, you know, like come look at this shit. This is during the Obama years and Trump's first time around. And it was like, everybody knows like, hey, look, they could turn that thing into a bomb in like, I'm going to make up a period of time, like 18 months or something. Like, I'm sure it's not that, but it's some amount of time. And they use that as a way to defend themselves, like in negotiation, because they're, you know, they're getting sanctioned and there's things that they want. They're negotiating for this, that, and the other thing. And so they go, look, and it's a tool that, you know, look, okay, I don't like Iran. Okay, for 47 years, they've been saying, fuck you, America, all this shit, right? Okay, I'm not like a big fan. I don't have some affinity for Iran, but I can understand that they have a reasonable requirement to like maintain their, you know, security and sovereignty. And that was a tool. They're surrounded by, dude, Pakistan has fucking nukes. If I'm Iran and I'm looking at those goat fuckers and I'm like, I'd be like, India and Pakistan, they shit in the street. They have nukes. Fuck you. I'm making nukes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no disagreement. I hear what you're saying 100%. The question is, can I make a good point for going in there?
No, and you did. And I get it.
Should that be the case?
Yeah.
If Pakistan hasn't threatened us, should that be the case? If that is the truth, if it is, and I don't trust the government, I don't trust their government, I don't trust our government. I'm hoping that they're going to come out and go, here it is, here's the pictures. They finally came out with the information for the Iraq war, and it was all bullshit based off of basically the testimony of one Iraqi defector.
Yeah,
and they based the entire war based off of one dude who hated his ex-country. And so so hopefully and hopefully we go over there and smash the shit out of them and change the regime for our benefit. And in a few months my boys come home and they get to go on leave and I get to see them again. That's what I hope. And I hope, regardless, that's the end state for me. However, I hope also good information comes out and says, they actually were. They were. So that, yes, there's my case.
That'll be the first time
the American government has told
the truth in like 200 years.
I've gotten used to the I don't know phrase a lot. I don't know. I've got no answer. I just hope we win.
Here's the other reason why I hope it wraps up soon, goes well, and doesn't look like a debacle, because if this turns into a debacle, right, like an undeniable mess, then we are about to be swarmed with Democrats. Like they're going to run everything.
Oh yeah.
Every Republican that runs anywhere is going to lose. The whole entire thing is going to flip, and they're going to come back with a screaming vengeance. You thought it was bad last time with all the shit. They're going to come back both barrels blazing. Like it's going to be. That's the real worry. Like
what I would say the fucking point is, bro.
Yeah. I forget who was saying it, but there was like, where does China factor in? Honestly, I think this is the enemy of my enemy type situation where, and let's say China and communists and the Islamists, whoever it may be, extreme Islamists, they all win. And then guess who they're fighting next? They're fighting each other, right? And the extreme Islamists win, right? And let's say it's, all Islam wins, then they'll fight each other. It will never end, right? It's always going to be one faction using another faction to get their end means, and then they're gonna parcel out. Yeah, but it was really my portion. If you look at the two and I don't even want to talk about just lobbyists. I mean, who's the most important people to capture the minds of, and that's children, right? We're children. We're not adults when we're teenagers, right? We're the best time to manipulate your minds. Who are the biggest contributors to our education during high school, especially college? The two biggest contributors are Qatar and China.
What do you mean? What do they
how
buy?
much money? I think it's like $7 billion to $6 billion. Each one of them contributes that much to both our government and to different colleges around the United States.
Oh, to affect the curriculum and shit, or
right? I don't know.
To just have
to
leverage
the curriculum, but in general, if somebody just bought you a new building, then you're not going to say anything bad about it. Again, right. Slightly going back to the Jewish thing, I don't see a lot of people walking around campuses right now wearing kippahs, right? So they're definitely not waving the red, white, and blue. They're waving either one of two flags. They're waving a seriously red flag. They're showing certain pictures, or they're waving the supposed
they're wearing
flag, right.
They're wearing the
yeah. So and this can go either way to either of the arguments, as far as what you're saying is like the bigger picture, Cody, or even just keep it more on the grounded level. At the end of the day, it's people using people. It's one group using another group who have identified. Okay, so I tell me, I homeschool my kids, and I try and teach this lesson to them all the time. We try and pretend like we're a super advanced thing that can get to Mars and get to the moon and stuff like that. And again, it's only a few of us that have done the math and have built the rockets to get us there. Most of us are being interviewed on the street, can't remember who the first president of the United States is, right? They get interviewed and they're like, when did the Civil War happen? And they're like, 1986, right? That's a large group of the population, or a portion of the population. I think it's a lot of us realize, or small groups of us have realized that you keep people, for whatever reason, however big or small, deaf, dumb, and stupid, right? Deaf, dumb, and mute. And you can manipulate the entire world.
Yeah, they're human.
And so you dumb everybody down. So where are you going to put your money? Put it in the politics? Well, they grew up as a hard right, American-loving, freedom-loving person. And I'm giving them money, but there's a lot of people out there that they're not going to take it. Or you put a lot of your money into the education system of that place, and you make them stupid. You miseducate them.
You write off the ones you don't have hooks in already, and But I mean, to your point, like these same smarty pants people are building the technology that's going to make most of humanity superfluous, and they're going to have to deal with that.
I think a lot of those people, yes, to an extent, I think a lot of those people were educated before a lot of this set in. They be bought? 100%. Bill Gates was bought, right? I think anybody can be bought. Everybody's got a price. And there's some people that, have standards to a point where you just can't do it, but they're so minuscule in number. I like to think that I'm one of those people. But
like that, dude, and I don't even disagree with you, but that's something people say, like, everyone has a price, but dude, think about what that means. That means, that means that, we're at the point with humanity where materialism is our God. Like that's what you're saying. The entailment of what you're saying is that the God that really runs this planet is materialism, and that, with enough, credits or Babylonian commerce squares or whatever, you could get somebody to turn their back on every principle they have, everything they love, and I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm saying that's a nightmare. Like we're in fucking a nightmare world if that's the case.
Again, let's go back to the Jewish thing, right? How many people that are Mexican are Jews that don't know it?
President?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the president. That's true.
She knows she's a Jew. Scheinbaum.
She's aware.
There's actually a large population of Jew throughout Mexico, Central and South America. Most people.
Well, I'm actually reading a book right now that was written in the 1960s where it's talking about the archaeological evidence for a connection to the Phoenicians being the tall whites that showed up in South America, like Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan or whatever. It's like, hey,
again, something I
Phoenicians.
looked into. I wrote some papers on the Phoenicians. Very interesting people. Again, our alphabet's based off of. It's not actually based off of their alphabet. They took a simplified version of the hieroglyphs from Egypt, and then changed that into their alphabet, which became Hebrew, and then became Greek, and then became Roman, and all that stuff. But yeah,
is that why it's called phonics?
Yeah, I'll spell it phonetically.
That means phonetically, that's Greek for sound, phono.
Yeah.
So phonograph, phone, telephone, right? Another thing I love teaching the kids is where words come from. But
etymology is fun.
But yeah, I forget what our point prior to that was. See, that's what happens.
Oh, we were just we were making the case for Iran, and then I wanted to make the point about having being under duress and who has a price. And I said, everybody has a price. It goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of times, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't have the boot on the back of their neck that'll say whatever they need to say. And specifically, a lot of my family comes from the Sephardic line of Spaniards that some of them converted because specifically of the disputations the disputation and the persecution that happened in Spain. And there's a lot of, I guarantee you, there's a lot of Mexicans that have no idea, the crypto Jews have no idea that they even have any Jewish ancestry, because you come down to it and they're like, yeah, I believe this. And it's funny, my grandfather always ate fish on this day and he refused to eat pork and he always would do this and he would always do that. And I never understood why. And it's because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say if you don't tie me to a stake and burn me to death. And that's just the reality of most people. Once you take away, I deal with this every day. Your problems become very simple when you're running out of air. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's very easy to make it. And we all like to be ideological and say, I would never. And you would never until because we've created through prosperity, you've created this Disneyland. Right, you've created this Disneyland where you don't have to really deal with real problems here in the United States and other Western countries, and you've never had a person put a bayonet to your neck and say this or this, right? So, I mean, that's my argument for that. So, yeah, I don't disagree.
So it can't be said that I haven't made fun of the Muslims enough this afternoon or this evening. This is the fucking Muslims worshiping Saturn.
I was thinking about that when you were saying Black Rock.
Yeah, so there's that black square or a hexagram.
Right. The Kaaba.
So, hexagram is like a square looked at it from diagonally, right? And they're going around it counterclockwise, which is straight up Saturnian. So it's like pretty fun.
Okay, wait. On this, how is that diagonally? Hold on, I'm just trying. I could see two triangles, but looked at it, yeah. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So you look at a cube,
right from the corner,
and it becomes the six sides. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by this shit. That's why I carved out this cedar cube out of like a bunch of cedar that I have because I contemplate what Saturn fucking means to ensure that I am a good steward of my time. I don't waste my time. You were given a gift, right? In this realm, according to the way my brain works. And a gift is another word for a gift is a present. You were given a present.
Yeah.
And you have the present. What do you do with it? And at the end, my assessment is, I kind of fall with what everybody said throughout the fucking history of our species is like you eventually get judged one way or another, right? Like I think in the path of ascension, like the Delta Force selection, you have unknown time, unknown distance. And that's basically what your life is. You have unknown time, unknown distance. You don't know when it's going to end. All you can do is do your best. And at the end, you're going to hear whether you passed or not. Sure. And I think that's essentially how this life works. Like
that's a great analogy.
There's no fail. You're just going to get kicked back down here into the pool and if energy is never destroyed, you're essentially just going to get recycled back into this fucking thing. And that's probably that's probably what the symbolism of the ring is, man, is just getting kicked back down to this, man. But another thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is in all this eschatology, I don't take that America was actually a part of this eschatology. So I think basically one of the things that's happening right now is we're getting kicked out of the fucking Middle East.
Real quick, give me a definition of eschatology.
It just means end times.
Okay.
It's just a religious end times narrative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Eastern Hemisphere.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is actually where everybody on the planet lives, right? This is like 6.8 billion people chilling out over here. Like we're like nobody over on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
We're like actually
in
mythology, we're the underworld. When the sun died, when the sun set in the west, like the sun went to the underworld. It went to the Western Hemisphere. Like we actually do live in fucking Hades.
Levant literally means the rising.
Yeah, there you go, the East, right? And I mean, the Mediterranean right here is Middle Earth. I mean, that is the belly button of the world. That's Giza's right there. But if you look at this right here, this is the crossroads of the world, man. This is all of Europe, all of Asia, all of Africa, all connected by that little fucking belly button right there. It's been the belly button of the world forever. Like this whole America bullshit that we've had for like the last 250 years. This was essentially just built out to be the fucking the military empire, right? So I think what is potentially going on right now is that we have served our usefulness over here on this side, and basically it's in the process of us essentially getting booted back to our own little fucking island over here, which is why they're like, oh, well, we're going to take Venezuela and Greenland, and fucking Canada and Cuba and all this shit, is because because we know we're going to be over here. We know by we, I mean like the royal we, like the people that are actually in charge. I think they're like, hey, America, you've served your purpose in our fucking scam. Because essentially, one of the things that I would put on the whiteboard is that the Phoenicians, who became the Venetians, and basically the black nobility, the black nobility is pretty funny because they would elect somebody called a doge to be their fucking face, have decided that they're going to retake the belly button of the world. And it just so happens that they're using, Judaism as a vehicle to essentially reconsolidate their crossroads of the fucking world, man. Or I could be wrong. I could,
you could be absolutely right. I just see that as like central planning to the extreme, which is ultimately failure every time.
Well, yeah, hopefully they lose.
Israel has no actual value. Like the land has no actual value.
Other than being the crossroads of Asia, Africa.
When we were cavemen that we're walking out of Africa.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And now
we're
I
agree.
Everywhere. You know what
I agree.
mean?
It's all.
It has no oil.
It's all valuable.
Has no minerals. I love the place. I love a lot of really cool people come out of there. They've invented a couple of cool things. I could continue down a list of they did this or that, and they made a pill that you can see through your gut when you swallow it. But outside of that, I mean, the area has zero value. So, and yes, absolutely, 100%. All of our ancestors one time walked out of that place, but and honestly, like even Islam does not see that place as being very valuable, other than the Jews own it right now. It's the third holiest site, depending on if you're Shia or Sunni, and then it's symbolic. To Christianity, it's a novelty. You can go, if you're Catholic, you can go to the Vatican, and if you're just any other Christian, your church is down the street. Israel means, I don't know how many evangelical types I've met.
Well, it's not
straight. There's straight Christian types where they're like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, yeah, I love it, and I know Israel and that. I'm like, oh, great. Have you been there? Like,
well, there's
someday.
I mean, there's another. I get stuck on these weird performative things that people like Trump do, where they go on a funded, damn near every congressman, every mayor of every city. There's a photograph of that guy with the kippah on, kissing the Wailing Wall, and it's like particularly insulting.
It's the Western Wall.
Western Wall, yeah, my bad. But it just blows my mind.
That's a part of my argument against Israel. Please continue. Sorry.
It's just a weird thing that it's like this thing. Well, and like Trump, who's obviously a disgusting degenerate. Like there isn't a spiritual bone in that guy's body. You know what I mean? And not only does he go to the Western Wall and kiss it and all sorts, but they've got him at, what the Chabad Leibowitz, whatever, right?
I do. Yeah,
the Rebbe Schmierson, right? This guy who did a lot of. So Rebbe Schmierson is dead now, but a lot of these Chabad types thought he was the Messiah. Like they literally thought he was the Messiah.
We're careful about that because we've had some incidents, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but Trump, there's pictures and video of Trump at Schmierson's burial site doing like a Western Wall kissing, type of thing. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? And obviously he's $100 million from Miriam Adelson this time, however much last time. She's pledged basically an unlimited amount. So like the total that he's accumulated from her specifically, the Adelson family is like 250 million in his political career. Like, dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like they effectively purchased, so then it's no surprise to me when we're doing Iran stuff, and it's like. And then you got, Rubio basically saying like, oh, yeah, we went because Israel was going to go.
Israel was already going to do it, so we might as well go along.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, who the hell are we? I'm like, what kind? Like, okay, fine. Again, I don't blame Israel. Israel's going to do what's in their interest.
They're going to be in their best interest.
Yeah. And I'm watching my country being like, oh, you guys have done what's in your interest as people. You've sold yourself out to, for whatever reason. Like some of these guys, like they're only there because, AIPAC or somebody, some of these guys, like, if they don't go along with certain things, AIPAC will just tell them straight up. We're like, well, you're some little pissant congressman from Illinois in some district no one cares about. We'll just dump $5 million into your political opponent's campaign and you won't be there anymore. And they go, okay, fine. Yes,
yeah, but the problem with that argument is that they did prior to, they wasted a lot of money on people that didn't back them later. And then they're like, well, now I'm not going to back you. The AIPAC is a largely ineffectual sludge of American Jews' money. And they go, oh, we're going to give this person money and we're going to give that person money. And then that person later doesn't back them. And they're like, oh, we're going to take it away. I'm like, what did you do then? They're hugely ineffective.
Okay.
They're
I didn't know
horribly
that.
ineffective. Yeah. And overall to the government, they give very little. I think they're not even in the top 200. As far as lobby groups, they do give, like certain individuals, they'll give larger amounts, but
I just see their I just see what they do is
countries.
Yeah, I don't think that, like, I never see them as like giving the larger government enough money to make a difference, like in that way. I just see them like individuals, like primary, like we're going to primary you, or we're going to, we're going to support your opponent, or we'll put somebody else in there. But
yeah, we go back to
this point,
planning thing. Central planning always fails, and they are horrible at it.
And at this point, I like they are the kind of the least of the lobbying problems. Like the entire, that's why I don't vote. Like voting in a national election is an act of consent, and it's like I do not grant my consent to any of this shit. And it's like, oh, by the way, your vote is, and people get mad, they get agitated, and they do the like, how dare you about the voting. And it's like, no, dude, as long as there's lobbying in the way that it currently exists, dude, it's absurd to think that anybody in the government is responding to their constituents in any meaningful way. They are not. They're responding to these.
Going back to your average people.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think otherwise. You'd have to because it's a weird psychological thing. Instead of engaging with reality, and I'm sure I do it about a lot of things. I just try to be careful. But most people are engaging with a story about the world. They're engaging with the world like in the way that they want it to be, and not the way that it is. So it's like voting is going into the fucking high school and standing in the little cardboard thing and marking this stuff. It's masturbatory. You may as well be pounding one out in there, you know. And but
I-
people are
Josh's
they have an
point
emotional
earlier.
attachment.
I was
Josh
at,
said earlier, you know, most of the people in the world are walking around with a worldview that could be loosely described as appeal to authority. Like they can't actually do anything else. They're just like, oh, I saw the fucking dude, you know, say the thing on TV. Who the fuck's going to give those people the power to choose their own fucking leader
Right.
every 4 years?
That's a good point.
I am actually in awe of our founding fathers. I think they're some of the most intellectual, intelligent people that have existed on the face of the earth. And some of them, you know, like George Washington, he didn't have the best education. He only spoke English. Some of the other ones, you know, they're highly educated, spoke multiple languages. Fortunately, they're the guys that wrote a lot of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And, you know, Thomas Jefferson, we go down this rabbit hole of going, but he owned slaves. Did you see the way he played 4D chess? The way he wrote everything out so that maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 10 years, but I said all people are created equal. All men are created equal, right? That would get to that. I'm in awe of the brilliance. I mean, to me, that's the Bible to me is all those papers. However, they couldn't solve this problem of who do we allow to vote? People give them a hard time about going, oh, at first it was just land owning men. I'm like, maybe we should only allow, I mean, you know, Plato's Republic, like, I might be misquoting, but should we let every person that's never been on a boat vote on how to run the boat? You know, he postulated that. Dude, and we never figured it out. And now we have the morons, you know, everybody has a say.
I'm completely against universal suffrage. Like, I don't think we should have it. I think that there should be some sort of qualification. But like the founding fathers are interesting. Like, and it's a rabbit hole. But like, you know, most of those guys or a good portion of those guys, the framers were Freemasons. And and you know, I'm not a fan of Freemasonry, but what that indicates is that they were in possession of, they were like Gnostics, you know, so like they were in possession of occulted knowledge, a collection of occulted knowledge that they migrated over because they couldn't get it going in Europe because they were still under the thumb of very powerful monarchies in Europe. These guys were mercantilists in my opinion, these guys were mercantilists that had special knowledge basically about how you could create an environment that was egalitarian and like pro populace and commerce, and I think they did, and it got fucked almost instantly. Like as soon as they as soon as they started with the central banking shit, like I think they really did set something pretty cool up. So I'm not fully like shitting on the whole American story, but like
that's pretty much what I'm saying. I think it was a great idea that immediately was taken advantage of.
Because it's just so hard to. This is why I think humanity keeps getting wiped out in like floods and stuff. It's because like you just can't get, you know, sometimes people can get it together for a short amount of time, but like we just can't keep it on the road, man.
And let me shift the conversation because I think this sounds dark and horrible, but in some ways that's a good thing because so let's talk about the Ashkenazis. For those who don't know, Ashkenazi basically means Germany. And Jews that moved to Germany or from Germany are Ashkenazi Jews. All the white-looking Jews are Ashkenazi. Probably some of the most persecuted people on the face of the planet, right? Everywhere they went, they moved to Poland, Russia, they're in Hungary, they're persecuted. Today, they have the highest IQs, right? They're some of the most successful people, no matter what you do to them. Put them in the Holocaust. I think that's something we're supposed to talk about. You do this, you do that. They still come out on top every time, right? Let's set them aside. Greatest warriors of all time. Your opinion, Cody, go. Name the greatest warriors of all time.
The Taliban.
Okay. Aaron, go.
Man, dude, I don't know enough about like ancient warfare stuff. I don't know the Mongols.
I'm gonna go ahead and say anybody from Northwestern Europe.
Okay.
You know why? Because they fought each other over and over and over again. Great Britain, the British Isles, that was Celtic. Then the Romans came and they took that over. Then the Anglo-Saxons came and they took it over. And then the Normans came and they took it over. And whatever was left was the British Isles or British Empire, and they took over the entire world. So my argument, and a little dark, is that wherever we're talking about physically, mentally, it's that conflict, it's that friction that causes, strength. You go to the gym, you tear your muscles to cause them to get bigger. And I don't know, like the British Empire, and then we were born from the British Empire, and we are now the greatest. Maybe we're destined to fall. I'd like to see the greatest nation rise out of us. Maybe nothing will, but I guarantee 100,000, 5,000 years from now, there will be another greatest nation, and it'll be because of the conflict of it.
But unless,
maybe
unless
we're
the
destined to fall,
entire,
and everybody is.
dude, unless the entire nature of all these conflicts changes, like we're still at the point where we're shooting each other with, with fucking bullets fired from gunpowder out of little tubes and shit. But in short order, like this thing's all going towards, I mean, we have friends that currently work for a company that makes autonomous AI, lethal autonomous AI, weapon systems, dude.
Yeah.
And don't seem to have a problem with it. Hey, they pay me $250K a year. I'll make whatever, and it's like, okay, guys, like we're building the Panopticon right now all around us, and we're just kind of, and I'm not like saying I'm any better, because it's not like I've gone and blown up any data centers or anything, but like, dude,
I'm kind of at peace with that. I mean, the how many blacksmiths do you know? Like at some point, and now we're talking a bigger scale, but at the end of the day, I can't, we can't,
I'd
rather control this.
Well, no, we can't control it. I feel like we're still at a point where we have enough like wherewithal. I think like, cause we're existing in our paradigm that we grew up with, and we're like guys that like went to combat and stuff, but like, and then we're going to raise our kids, in a way that, is kind of in keeping that. You've already got sons that are doing the thing, but like maybe one more generation, maybe your son's kids will still hang on because they'll be your son's kids. But dude, we're 1 or 2 generations from not having the ability to resist any of this shit anymore. Like you see what's out there wandering around,
Yeah. We're on the precipice of a very scary, revolution. And I think we've been talking about a lot of things. But and a lot of it, it's my idea, or I think, there's no, we don't need to, guess when we see robots dancing on stage or doing backflips and stuff, and then AI writing papers for, or answering medical questions, and, marrying those two together. It's there. I don't need any further proof. It's right in fucking front of us. And that's scary. I don't know where it's going to go. It's a black swan.
But it's funny, like even the dystopic technology, everything, even a nuclear weapon or something, right? Like any of these things are just objects, they're just pieces of technology. And even the AI shit, I'm not a fully bought in on the fact that they'll become fully autonomous or sentient or whatever, because I'm not a atheist psychopath, so I still believe that like God exists and he creates life and we don't, or whatever. But okay, but like any of these objects, like I don't think it's likely or whatever, but you could have some sort of spontaneous like moral revolution or something. Again, like it's nonsense, it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that like of all the things that are possible, like it is technically possible that humanity could like stare into the abyss of their own demise and be like, okay, like, are we really going to fucking do this?
Most science fiction has this. Most science fiction, successful stuff, has an AI apocalypse essentially. So Dune, they had to fight the thinking machines, and they essentially made it illegal.
The old one from like the early 1900s, I forget what it's called, but they did the same thing. They had a utopia with robots running the
It might be the black and white movie Metropolis.
Metropolis.
Yeah.
Or Warhammer 40K. They had the fucking dark age of technology where AI ran fucking rampant,
Dude, I like science fiction, but I love thinking about the implications of it, because what science fiction really is these kind of forward thinking, and who knows, like, what puts these thoughts in these authors' minds. But like these guys, as long ago as the early 1900s or whatever, they basically imagine the future They write about it in fiction, and then people create that reality. Like they're creating it as kind of a mimetic thing, or like a egregore. They're kind of summoning this thing, and then humanity scurries around and creates it.
I was giving somebody this example the other day. I was meeting with DARPA, and DARPA was talking about their ideation groups, essentially. So basically you'll have a problem set, and they'll bring in experts on that particular problem set, but they'll also bring in people that are just experts from other fields to get like different looks at that same kind of problem set, bring different information to it. So I think a lot of what those science fiction writers were doing, because they're all dialed in once you look at them, H.G. Wells, Orson Welles, like all these fucking weirdos, is kind of what Aaron is saying is the building of these egregores. I mean, they don't necessarily know how to do it themselves, but they put the information out there into the environment, and they get a free ideation. Fuck is the word I'm looking for? Like a free ideation group. And one of the other things like the internet does, and AI in general, is you get this thing, you're like, hey, everybody start prompting this thing to do stuff. Like, one of us isn't as smart as all of us. So instead of me paying for a shit ton of research, hey man, I'll just kick it out there for free and let these motherfuckers. A lot of people are going to make cat videos. That's going to happen. But also there's going to be a lot of people that put some really interesting things into that fucking machine, and just not thinking about who sits on the back door. And it's kind of interesting. Like the internal symbol of Chat GPT is a hexagon.
Oh yeah. That's a great point there.
Well, shit, guys, I'm gonna have to.
I'm not blaming the Jews for fucking ChatGPT.
I'm gonna have to.
We did
wrap
do
it.
that. I have to admit that.
I'm,
Guys, we didn't even get to half the things I wanted to talk about. There's one.
Well,
really
we
good-
could do it again,
Yeah,
man.
let's do it again, man.
Yeah, I'd absolutely
Dude, that was
love to
good.
do it again.
Yeah, I would like to do it again. I would like to.
There's
continue the
definitely
topic.
one big point I kind of wanted to build up to. That I didn't get
Well,
to.
let's do it.
We went everywhere, so yeah.
We can do it. Would you just out of curiosity? What is it?
Teaser.
Have you ever been around a abused dog?
Abused dog. Yeah, I have been around abused dogs.
Okay. Did anybody warn you like he's been abused? Be careful.
In one case, yeah. In another case, I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you get the idea, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. Okay.
Now make that abused dog the most intelligent thing in the universe, right? And it would do anything to protect itself, even irrationally.
Even irrational. Yeah.
Because we can be as intelligent as you want, but we're still humans.
Yeah.
And an abused dog is irrational, right? Like you're abused once, but you're not being abused now, right? But now imagine that thing has been abused for thousands of years, right? And all of this is to put into context. I obviously I know you know where I'm going with this, but put into context, the nice ways and the bad ways that you would handle somebody who was a human being that was like that, right?
Yeah.
Hyper capable, hyper intelligent, but they've been abused and they're never going to let that happen again. And I honestly, I think that's something that's not. You might want to cut this part out so we can save it for later. But I honestly think that that's something that nobody ever puts in the for good and bad of Israel. Like
that's a good teaser. That's a good teaser.
You're dealing with somebody that's been abused over and over and over and over again, and they vowed. Part of their entire culture and psyche is never again, right? So, there's a lot of politicians that could heed that very well.
And and obviously what one person's solution was for that.
Yeah,
he tried to do.
Yeah. Well, he just. I don't think his reason for doing that was that, but he adds to that.
Yeah,
because I can name
for sure.
You can name a million different. The Spanish Inquisitions, the pogroms, the first.
The Romans too.
The Romans, one after another. Okay, and they've succeeded. They succeeded despite, and now we have our little pocket. Now, and Pollard and you're actually not even naming several things I wanted to talk about. I think you know about them, like the sale of F-16s to China and a bunch of other things.
Oh yeah, or USS Liberty.
And the Liberty, that's a murky one, but there's people on both sides that are like, wasn't it really their fault?
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, we'll tease
that
them.
was
Those
a
are good.
very
Yeah.
important point that I wanted to get to. So I'm very happy to come back and talk about that because
Yeah.
that's the end
Hell yeah.
point of, most of everything, all of this is bullshit. But I have critiques of Israel, and I also have a caution, which is this point, is like in the future dealing with Israel, for the good and the bad. Remember this, like, be careful before you pet him, because he has been abused and he will bite. That kind of thing.
And they have the Samson. You're talking. It's kind of like the Samson option type stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for doing this, and let's do it again soon,
man,
so we don't lose the thread.
yeah, absolutely. Let me know. I'm free. So anytime.
Cool. All right. Thanks again, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna hit end
Good to see you
recording, and
guys.
we'll just wrap it up. Thanks everybody for sitting in with us this whole time. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
Yep.
Bye.